Okay, what time? It is 5 after 7. I'm going to call
Hold
the...
on, Bill, I'll get the recorders going.
Oh, okay, I'm going to let Jim put on the recorders before I do anything.
Got a little bit of a makeshift setup tonight.
Yeah, just for everybody's edification, the leak took out the
Your fault.
electronics in the cabinet.
Sabotage.
All right.
Okay, we're all set? Okay, it is now still 7:05. I'm going to call this special meeting of the Stonington Board of Finance to order. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody will stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Board of Ed's budget presentation. So I will let you proceed as you wish. We're going to be starting with the slides first.
We'll start with Sid.
I'll
With
take
Sid.
it away.
Okay. Let me
So just-
find my
A reminder, tonight we've got sort of a makeshift setup here, so if you can use the microphones to help pick up the audio for our recordings, that would be fantastic. We hope that they last the duration of the meeting tonight, but we'll play that. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm not sure if all the board members know me yet. I'm Chris Williston. I'm the Director of Technology for Stonington Public Schools, and as of recently, the town of Stonington as well. I'm sure you saw me up here with Roger presenting his budget. So I'm going to go through the Technology Board of Ed SIP items tonight. We have 6 different lines, and if it's okay with the board members, one of the lines a little further down, line 155, the audio and video systems for the district. I'll jump down to that a little bit out of order when we get through, just so I can go through all of mine, and then we'll have Steve come up here and present his budget as well. Again, for the newer board members, historically what I've tried to do is create a level funded budget. So you'll see in the 10-year projections, the numbers are pretty much the same with slight increases for cost increases built in over 3 to 5 years down the road. So some of the funding that we're asking for tonight is to build accounts for those refreshes. Again, trying to keep a smooth budget without lots of peaks and valleys, so that in the past, historically, what had happened was we would bond or finance equipment. I try my best not to finance anything, so the town's not incurring any interest costs. So again, we try and keep that level budget through level funding across those multiple years. So some of the accounts we'll go through tonight will not be planned purchases for next year, they're further down the line. But again, we're building up that account with smaller chunks of change down the road, so that when it's time for that refresh, we're not asking for a large sum of money.
Tell me exactly where you are in the booklet here.
Sure, so we're under the capital improvement program.
In this part, or?
No, that's the operating expenses. So if
Okay.
you go back over to Jim's town budget there,
Okay.
it should be towards the very end of the full packet. Stonington Public Schools being the top line 140, and I'll be starting with line 141, the district computers and peripherals. Give everyone a moment to get there.
I still can't.
Well, for whatever reason, Chris, we're off by a line, because I got 140, so.
We're off to a great start. I'm already off.
I might have sent you an earlier version and deleted something, so,
Okay.
but we'll figure it out. It's not rocket science.
On or around line 140, you should find district computers and peripherals.
Thank you.
Under this line, for the Technology BOE SIP program, the Technology Department is requesting $225,000. This is covering several purchases in the upcoming year. First, we have the Barracuda backup appliances, and you should have all of the quotes, proposals, and backups included in this information here, totaling $46,975. We have the Scale HCI server cluster for $101,187, and the FortiGate 400F firewalls for $109,888, and the Extreme Network switches totaling $58,302. The Barracuda backup appliances are required to run backups of our servers for disaster recovery purposes. The Scale HCI server cluster are just planned refresh of our servers for the environment. As we go through these, you'll notice that there's nothing new or outside the box. These are just standard upgrades that we're performing here for status quo. So these are all becoming end of life and requiring replacements. The FortiGate firewalls, those are to protect the network, and the Extreme Network switches, these are all of our edge switches that are required to be upgraded throughout the district. You'll notice that total comes to $316,352, but the request is only for $225,000. There's two reasons for this. One, there is money remaining in that account that's going to be used to help offset that difference. So again, these level funded accounts, if I have money left over because we were able to save money the previous purchase, that money just rolls over the next year, and then I can reduce the future year's funding request. The other large chunk of this change is going to come from the E-rate program, where we anticipate $84,000 in grant funding for this. This is the FCC program, a federal grant through the USAC that provides schools and libraries with internet connectivity and broadband opportunities. That we have a strong chance. I never assume we're going to get a grant, but I'll say in the past, over 90% of this grant application we have received in the past. So in this instance, I am planning on receiving that $84,000 to help offset that. I'll note that that money does not come to the town. We receive that in the form of our 50% eligibility purchase. So schools and libraries receive funding based on, in our instance, the free reduced lunch program. So the number of lower income families in the district determines our percentage. We're a 50% funded district, which means we basically get 50% off that equipment. So when we go to actually purchase this, the vendor who sells it to us will actually be reimbursed by USAC. So that money does not exchange hands through us. And the last piece that's going to help offset this is, of course, competitive bidding. So these have not been put out to competitive bid yet. Once they are, we hope to see those prices come down. Of course, as we're seeing in the news, technology prices are a little bit in flux right now. RAM and hard drive costs are through the roof. So we're hoping that costs don't continue to climb between now and July purchases. Any questions on that line? Okay. Next up, we have these.
Just briefly, we have opportunity to wait on any of that if we see prices continue to decline?
Do we have the opportunity to wait on those refreshes to see if prices continue to climb?
Or wait out the market?
The E-rate opportunity has already been put out to bid. Just timeline-wise, that has to occur. There's a whole USAC rule list for that. So that we've already done.
Yep.
The benefit we have there is vendors are in as little as 14-day windows right now. We're getting constant notifications from our resellers that manufacturers and developers are raising prices in as little as 14-week increments, which is unheard of in the industry. Because of USAC's bidding rules, all of our firewalls and network switches, if they submit that bid, they are locked in at that number. They cannot increase it. So that's between the value-added reseller and the manufacturer or developer to figure out who has to eat that cost. So those we're safe on. I don't foresee a decline, certainly, in prices on that equipment. We can wait a little longer with the HCI cluster, but again, that is to finish our migration off of VMware. So this is a cost-saving measure I'm taking to get away from Broadcom with the VMware acquisition that sent prices through the roof. And again, as part of this, for those that don't know, the new role of the town side, we're looking to integrate more and more of these systems to save the district and the town money. So one of these cost-saving measures is in utilizing these server clusters, which are very scalable. So we can add more nodes without having to buy an entire stack and get the town off of VMware as well. So that's the longer-term goal there as well.
Do we have a timeline to get the town off of VMware?
By summer 2027.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay. Staff computers. These are the district laptops that we use for all of our staff throughout the district. This is a $90,000 request. So this year is double what each year's funding request is because last year's funding was cut to $0. So last year's $45,000 coupled with this year's $45,000 makes it a $90,000 ask. Again, this is to build that account for the upcoming staff laptop refresh in approximately 3 years. Any question on the staff computers refresh? Yes, Mr. Winchester.
One,
Gee, hold on.
oh, sorry, thank you. There's a discrepancy in the numbers. Is it 250 or 300 Mac Airs?
250 or 300 Mac Air laptops?
Yeah.
I believe we're approaching 300. I think the last refresh was only 250, but with added staff and more types of staff receiving Mac Air due to their responsibilities and duties. Previously, we had just issued Chromebooks to those types of staff, what the students use, but those are very limited capacity laptops. They don't run a full operating system, so to speak. So that number has grown a little bit there as well.
The bid is for 50 times 5.
The bid is for 50 times 5, so between 250 and 300 is probably where we're going to come in. We're still around 275, so again, when I project these out, future years could increase or decrease as we get closer to the actual refresh, rather than bidding out, or rather funding for all 300 up front if we don't need that. I'd rather wait and have a little bit of an uptick in the funding request towards the end than asking for too much up front and then tapering off. So kind of different ends to build that in on. But our last refresh was 250, which I believe is why I've quoted that out. So going forward, as we get closer, 1 to 2 years out from that refresh, which is typically split over 2 years, just for sanity's sake for the department, much easier to roll out 2 of the 4 schools at a time. We'll know exactly what we need when we get to the home stretch there.
What I'm more familiar with, and I don't know whether it's applicable to this situation, is that IT will stockpile a number of units to replace ones as they wear out, rather than replace the entire fleet at one time. So is that a possibility?
So we take a hybrid approach, actually. So we do that as well. So if we purchase, let's say we purchase 250 laptops, that's because we need 240 that day, right? So whatever that refresh looks like, we keep that same make model on the shelf. What we try to avoid, which isn't entirely avoidable, is mixing and matching lots of different make models. As we know, computer manufacturers like to change models every year. It becomes harder to find parts for those. So again, from a logistics and efficiency standpoint, from the department's perspective, we try and keep that same make model laptop. And with Apple, they do a pretty good job of offering those longer term past when consumers are able to purchase those laptops. So we can kind of top off that supply, and we do, and that's part of the operating budget. We have some repair costs and replacement equipment costs built in, but we try, rather than waiting for those all to become completely end of life, we budget for a 5-year refresh on those laptops. And typically, when we buy them, we're not buying the latest, greatest model. So we're already buying a model that's a couple years old, padding a little bit of inventory with that, buying more in the upcoming years and the immediacy of that refresh so that we can continue to get that same make model. And then by the time it's time for a refresh, that laptop may have been manufactured 7, even 8 years ago. So it may only be in production for 5 years. We're getting them at a lower cost because it's the older model when we purchase it. But with Apple, we have a lot more of predictability with those laptops and devices, more so than with Windows and things coming down the pipe for those OSs.
How long does Apple provide support for its aging computers?
It varies based on the make and model. Minimum 5 years on all of that hardware. The last refresh we did, we were at end of life and end of support with those. So at that point, our hands are tied. It becomes a security issue. Even if the laptop still turns on and can run programs at a relatively usable speed, once they stop releasing security patches for it, we just can't support it in the environment because it becomes a cybersecurity threat.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, you probably mentioned this before. What do you do with the ones that are replaced?
So the old laptops, once those are deprovisioned, as part of the next purchasing process, we actually send those in and they green recycle those for us. Typically, they have a low value, but if there is any value, they add that or take that off of the purchase price for us. So there's a little bit of savings there too. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on the staff laptops? Okay. Next, similar category are the Chromebooks. So these are part of our one-to-one program. Our middle and high school students are all issued Chromebooks as part of the one-to-one initiative that the district adopted back in 2019. And our elementary school students have these Chromebooks distributed throughout the classrooms for use when teachers feel necessary. These are a learning tool that the students use. We've been able to save some costs with e-textbooks, not having to purchase textbooks and distribute those. They're able to use these because they take them home so they can do homework with them, use them in class for group activities, that type of thing. So in this instance, we are looking for $123,000. That will cover the high school refresh of 575 Chromebooks and cases for the 26-27 fiscal year. That number, 575, is slightly more than the number of students in the school. Again, putting spares on the shelf so that as those get broken, damaged, or otherwise lost, we use those spares and are able to replenish some of the stock with that. That amount was increased from $115,000 up to $123,000 just to cover the shortage and the projected refresh amount. So again, when we get to that refresh year, I'll adjust that final home stretch number just to make sure we have enough in that account. And the future amounts, you'll notice in the projections, have also been increased from $115,000 to $119,000 to build that account for new estimates reflective of equipment costs rising. And again, as we talked about, those costs are a bit volatile, so as we watch down the line, those could continue to go up. We could see a bubble and RAM hard drive costs come down, so we kind of adjust it as needed. Any questions on the one-to-one Chromebook? Okay. Next up is the district phone system. This one's fairly straightforward. We're looking for $10,000 to begin building that account back up. We just did our district refresh last year of our phone system. So we were anticipating a minimum of 7 years on this. We were reduced from $10,000 to $0 last year. I did not increase this year's ask by any dollar amount because again, we have long enough to where I could pad that over the last few years before we actually do that refresh. So this time I'm still only asking for $10,000 to continue building that account. But again, we're 6 to 7 years away from a phone system refresh. Any questions on the phone system? Next, we have the security systems. These are security systems and cameras district-wide. This amount was reduced from $50,000 to $25,000 this year, as I applied for, and we received a grant from the state of Connecticut for $75,000, which was deposited into that account. So last year's $50,000 was brought to $1, and this year is brought from 50 down to 25. to essentially cover that $75,000 that we received from the grant. So Jim already put that in the camera system account. So again, level funding, replacing camera systems over the years. You'll get a sneak preview of that at the end of the meeting with my bid waiver request, which you'll notice has been heavily redacted as we just don't want public information about camera systems we use and makes and models and that type of thing. Any questions on the security systems and camera upgrades? The last item from the technology department, a little further down on your sheet, around line 155, is the audio video systems district-wide. This is $135,000 being requested. Again, this is a level funding account for upcoming refresh of the elementary school interactive flat panels. So when the elementary schools were built, we deployed approximately 90 of these interactive flat panels between Deans Mill and West Vine Street School at a cost of approximately $500,000 between the two buildings. One thing we've done in the last 2 years here is switched the make model. So we've moved away from Smart and their proprietary boards to seek cheaper alternatives. So we found boards coming in at approximately half the cost of those originally purchased via the new line boards. We've actually deployed those at the middle school already. So the plan is, again, continue deploying that same make model, but those are approximately half the cost. So between those two buildings, we're looking at around a roughly $250,000 refresh. We have purchased some replacement, I'll call it the brain of the board, basically a small onboard computer that they came out with an Android version of that's helping extend the life of those boards as we're already going into 7 years. So they're past warranty by a couple of years. The boards are expected to last up to 10 years. From what I've heard from other districts, the failure rate as soon as warranty expires tends to go up exponentially. So we're starting to hedge our bets by getting some of those replacement parts that we can service. And then the cost to service the boards when we have touch display failures usually outweighs the useful life of the board and its value remaining. So at that point, we will start replacing these with the new line boards that we're going to be implementing. But again, the plan will be we do one elementary school, usable boards are reclaimed, and those become spares for the other school. And then when we get closer to that refresh, depending where we are in funding for that budget, I'll have a better idea of how much longer we can kind of stretch the life of those boards as well. Those run Android operating systems, so as long as Google's providing security updates for those, they're not an issue. And we also have an IoT network plan to migrate those off to help further bolster the security of managing those boards.
What's a typical cost per board?
So a typical cost per board is around $5,000, and that's with warranty, software support, etc. The new line boards we're looking at are closer to $2,500 to $3,000. And some of those are with the wall mounts, which are now included. So one thing Smart does, they like to nickel and dime. So if you want this, it's an extra this. New Line offers free support for life on the boards, so there's zero overhead per year, so that keeps OpEx down. They come with a mount that keeps mounting costs down. They're playing with a lot of other third parties, so we can kind of pick and choose what we want to use from an accessories perspective. We're not locked into a brand. So overall, it's just a much more cost-effective solution.
Well done, thanks Chris.
Sure.
Thank you. Could you just talk us through the timeline a little bit more? Like, are you hoping to do this for both elementary schools over the summer, and that's why you want it for now, or is it?
No, not this summer. So we would start that refresh next summer. So summer or July 2027. So we're looking for $135,000 this year. We'd be looking for another $135,000 next year. Again, that number might change a little since that'll be round one of that refresh. More spaces have become classrooms that were not formerly classrooms, so the number can tick up. Sometimes we can reclaim boards where we thought they might get used when the architects and the building committees kind of lay out the building. Obviously, it's a dynamic, ever-changing thing, so we get those hard counts when we get closer to that final refresh. But we're basing the number off of the
Okay, so it's over the 2 fiscal, and then you have 80 in there?
Correct, so there's, just double check, make sure that's correct. Yes, $79,463.
Really, don't shortchange me. Okay, and would it impact you, not to say we would do this, but just like, would it impact you if you divided it up differently than the 50/50, like over 2 years?
Yeah, so we could certainly reduce some of that this year and just add more next year. Yeah, absolutely. Same thing, things like the phone account, we can reduce and double up down the road.
So we did that last year.
Yeah, at some point, the rubber meets the road and all of a sudden there's a big ask, but. Any other questions on the District AV?
Okay, we're all set, thanks.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Welcome, Steve. Thank you.
Good evening, guys. My name is Steve Carroll. I'm Director of Facilities at Stonington Public Schools. I'm here to present the SIP budget for the Maintenance Department, reviewing our district needs. I'm starting in line 149, and that's replacement of a maintenance truck for the district. The plan to replace that maintenance truck, it was a truck that we had in our fleet, that the frame cracked, so we took it to our garage to get it repaired, and they realized that we had a broken frame, so it went from there to the junkyard. At this point, as we go down the list, I'll go back to this item, but I'm pointing out now that we've put in a request for $40,182. And basically that truck is used as our mail courier truck. It's what we deliver mail, and we have a in-house mail courier, and the person would also do like bank deposits for the kitchens or whatever, so that's what that vehicle's used for. But I'm going to actually stop, I'm just going to skip that, I'll mention it, and we'll move on and I'll kind of go back to it. Line 150 is a special ed minivan replacement, and if you notice, that's actually in for the 27-28 budget. It's just kind of like a pre-notification that we're going to need that next year, or the following year. And that one is a van that supports our student transportation, and that's what the district actually provides to students through the special ed program.
Steve, what line are you talking to?
That is line 150, it's that 149, 150.
Our 150 is the high school gym up there. One back. 149.
It's not in this ask, it's for future. Right, so it's not for this year.
Yeah, it's not in this year, so it's actually in for next year, so it probably never even shows up in your, sorry. But we'd actually present that so that you guys have some sort of notification when we need it next year.
And Steve, yeah, could you go back to, was it just the one mail delivery truck, or are there 2 maintenance trucks you're asking for?
There's 2, so there's actually one should be further down, and it would be a maintenance van, and that's line 168.
No, they're both in the same line.
Yeah, okay, so on our side, they're the same line?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that makes sense. We talked about making an adjustment to that. As present right now, we requested a maintenance van and we requested the truck. So for us, that would give us the mail courier vehicle and a maintenance van for our maintenance department. And I believe we put in, it was about 57,000 for
You had $51,767
yeah,
for one of the trucks.
51,000 for the maintenance van. So
$40,182 for the other vehicle.
right, presenting for the board.
Before you go ahead,
Yep.
what were those numbers?
Originally, we had $51,767 for one of the vehicles,
Right.
and then another $40,182 for a different vehicle,
So that's where the
91.
91,
91. But then during the Board of Selectmen subcommittee meeting, you had an adjustment of negative $26,000.
right.
So is that still?
Correct, that is still correct. So basically, we're going to purchase used electric vans. That's what we're looking at right now. There is a market flood.
So both vehicles for $65,000?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So right now, there's a market flood on electric vans. They seem to, they came out, they've got 120 mile range, a lot of they're E40 Transits. A lot of contractors have purchased these vans and realizing that their staff members are sitting at recharge places for 2 hours. So there's like a market flood of used ones with 2,000-3,000 miles on it. So the van brand new is around 50-some thousand with our discount. The secondary market right now is around 30,000 with 2,000 miles on it, 3,000 miles. So we're hoping just to purchase 2 electric vans. One could be for mail delivery and one would be for our maintenance crew. And we feel like that 120 miles is like perfect for our niche use. We average about 20 miles a day, running school to school. So it seems like the perfect vehicle. It's, it's good for the environment and shows like we're making an effort. So, and the reason it's 65,000, we're hoping to put into basic plug-in chargers on one of our schools. With the 5,000, hoping to get them for 30,000 a piece.
And Steve, could you just talk to the impact of if you only have one versus the two?
I never even thought of that, but yes. I guess right now we're having some problems, and we've been really working hard to work around our vehicle shortage. And there has been some major issues in my department. We've refocused the department since I came here. I've been here for approximately 2 years. When I came here, we had 4 maintenance men. Our maintenance was limited to what our crew could provide, which was not enough to sustain the school in a safe manner. So I moved the custodian from the custodial department into the maintenance department, and he's filling in a lot of the tasks that some of the skilled maintenance men were doing. He's not skilled, a different type of skill. So we're focusing on maintenance, and we find ourselves with the mail courier vehicle gone and a shortage already of one staff member. It'd be really hard for us to say we could only survive on one van.
Just another piece of that too. I'll pat Steve on the back since he's not really doing it, but a lot of the maintenance work that was happening, we were outsourcing. And so it was significantly more expensive. So now we have employees who are able to make our buildings run more efficiently, but they need to be able to get from point A to point B. And we really don't like to have people using their personal vehicles to do this for liability reasons, and then we're reimbursing them at the IRS mileage rate. So it's just more cost effective for us to completely in-house a lot of this maintenance work.
Good questions, thank you. Question, Steve, these are electric vehicles, how do they compare in price to gas?
So the price that for one gas vehicle is actually the price in the maintenance van, which was $51,767. So that's the price of a brand new gas one. So I never looked at a price of a used van compared to electric. I didn't do that. I think when I went to the board and presented my SIP budget to the Board of Education, the Board of Education seemed like they were keen to go with a greener maintenance department, looking towards going to electric vehicles if we could possibly do that. I think this plan actually meets both needs. I'm cutting the budget for requests and supporting the Board of Education's request for.
Okay, so it's not necessarily cheaper to go this way.
I can't answer that, Dave, I really can't. I don't know what I used at Transit. I used the Transit van with 2,000 miles on it. I I don't think it would be, I think it would actually be more money.
Yeah, and they're not quite as reliable as gas.
Yeah, I can, that's good. I think the electric vehicles basically are reliable to a certain point. I mean, it's coming with a warranty, it's only got 2,000 miles on it, but they are reliable. There is a fuel savings as well for the town. I feel like the cost of running the vehicle on a daily basis and the maintenance, we don't have to change oil.
Mr. Brown, good evening. Electric vehicles used are much cheaper than gas vehicle used, and the cost to operate an electric vehicle is actually much less than a gas vehicle. Even with charging them in-house, we'll be saving half the cost of the energy to drive those vehicles. They also use a lot less maintenance than a gas vehicle. So beyond the greening of the district, we're also considering the cost, and we firmly believe that an electric vehicle is much more cost sensible than a gas vehicle.
That didn't sound like that. What was being described.
I think it's within the same lines.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I don't know.
Well, you're getting two for $65,000.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
As opposed to one costing
57.
40 and one costing 57.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Correct. So
Pretty
this
much
is
a wash.
within the same line.
I understand.
Okay, but David's question, kind of, you're comparing the price of a new vehicle to the price of a lightly used vehicle.
Correct.
Is
And, correct. And if you go buy a lightly used gasoline vehicle, it will still be more expensive. The market of electric, it's just an opportunity because the market of electric vehicle, used electric vehicle, the price has declined significantly more than the price of a gas vehicle. It's just an environment of the administration, how it looks at this production. So there was a different lens that we're looking at. So it's a great opportunity to buy and buy at a used market value. In the running cost of an electric vehicle, we believe is, as the research supports, is much more sensible than a gas vehicle.
Why did the other group decide not to use electric vehicles anymore?
Dave, I think what Steve said, and maybe you can hear him, was that for their uses, like, they'd have to sit and charge for 2 hours, so that wasn't great, but for what we need it for, it's okay if it sits and charges for 2 hours, because they only need it, right, to like,
Yeah,
get from one
correct.
place, do a job, they can sit and charge, so I think it didn't meet other people's needs.
It doesn't meet
Yeah.
the general contractor needs, because if they've got one job in Hartford, it means somebody's got to drive to Hartford 50 miles. They're almost at their mileage max on the way back, and it seems like it failed as a general contractor van and has flooded the market, and I can't believe how inexpensive they are compared to the price of a new one, and it's so close to the brand new van in mileage to.
Do we get any rebates? Are those still available?
Not unused.
No, not unused, not unused.
It's actually, yeah, it's a great use for an electric vehicle.
It is.
Because if you say you're only running 20 miles a day, you don't have to charge it every day.
No, and I mean, I think a lot of people are finding, I actually spoke with a contractor who has one, and he's said that just maintaining, like, in this temperature, the heat in the van or the air conditioning, they were preheating them, trying to preheat them before they left. There's a lot of concerns for a contractor, whereas for us, I think it's just going to be like a perfect vehicle,
Right.
you
I
know?
agree.
Steve, can we go back to I just have a question. The
Yes, sir.
special ed minivan line,
Yes, sir.
because there was, in 2024, 2025, we funded a special ed minivan line. Is that because there's more than one?
Yeah, the 7, I think. I
Okay,
can't, Allison's not here, I believe.
So we replaced one and we now need to replace another.
I'm sorry, Allison, I did not see you there. It's 7 vans, right? Is that correct?
Oh, I think Mary's not and a spare.
Yeah.
You have to have a spare.
Okay, so the issue is,
Spare will age
we
out.
replaced one last year and we need to replace another one
Yeah.
next year.
Yes, just
Okay.
a fleet replacement.
All right,
And we always have to have a spare of those because
Yep.
they have to go into the DMV so
Yep.
frequently.
Yep.
Next one for me is 153, and that would be track and turf replacement. Is that good for you guys?
Yep.
Okay. So track and turf replacement, I've went through 2-3 contractors reviewing our current track and turf. The hope was that the track was in good enough condition that it could be recoated and maintained in the condition that it's in. Every contractor to this point has said no. The track was installed in 2006, and to invest in it now at this age, to try and get more life out of it and spend the money to have it recoated doesn't make sense, and basically I'm not going to warranty that work. So basically, in the track and turf replacement budget, it would be redoing the track, which would mean milling the surface, put a new surface down, putting the track down. And they're actually going to bore the track surface and do core samples to see how good the condition the track truly is. So this is estimated. And then in that estimate for the track and turf replacement is $2,350,000. That would replace the turf, replace the fencing around the track as well. And we're looking at the press box, which is currently the baseball press box, needs to be replaced. So we're going to use like a portable press box, which is actually attached to the field. I figured while I'm in there, I might as well fix that too. The current fencing around the field, the mesh is on the wrong side. Mesh should always be on the side of the athletes. That just makes, that's like the new protocol, not a new protocol, it's been a protocol for a long time. And the minimum requirement for a fence to a track is 1 meter. Our fence is quite a bit closer than that to the track, so if an athlete was to stumble and fall, the track fence is actually within that hidden range. So.
Does that get you into the bleachers?
Yes, it does. And I wouldn't be including the bleacher, like the home bleachers will be in the front of the fence. You're correct on that. It's a very tight squeeze.
Yeah, well, one of the things we realized when we did the turf field was we were 2 lanes short of having a facility that could host a,
Steve?
can't think of the word, but an event, a track event.
Yes, I mean, I think that it's actually 1 meter, and that actually comes from the state events. That's the minimum distance for a fence. So I figure if right now the fence it's about 6 out of 10. If I'm going to rip everything out, including the blacktop, the fence has got damage on it, and if I put in a brand new track, a brand new fence, a brand new turf, and people walk up and see the fence, just a mess and not in great condition, I think in the end up for us, it's just looked like we never done it complete, you know, and there is safety issues with the location.
Now, are you talking about doing the turf at the same time you do the track, or does the
Correct.
track?
All in one.
Oh, the track doesn't have to happen sooner?
I can't answer that. My meeting with the contractors tomorrow, so he's got his first set of drawings, so I can't answer what his timing in relation for the track to the field would be.
Okay, but just to review, you did have the contractor who installed the turf, inspect the turf.
Yes, so
Within the past year.
we've had it tested, and we've started a pretty rigorous maintenance process on it. There's a company comes in and they basically remove the rubber. The rubber had become compacted, and there's a process where there's a machine that extracts the rubber from the field, runs it through magnets, and then reapplies the rubber and takes any
Contaminants.
Yeah, contaminants, great word. See, Chris, they help me out. Any contaminants out of the field. So we've had that done twice last year. It had never been done in its history. So we've done it twice last year, and we did pull quite a bit of metal out of the field and quite a bit of contaminants. So that would continue now
Right.
as a basic maintenance. And we do, they've always had the field tested, and on turf fields, the worst spot is always the lacrosse goals. That's the part that fails. Every tester comes in and they go right to the lacrosse goal and say, oh, your field's not good. But we've actually tested good at the lacrosse goals.
It's the worst spot on grass fields.
It is. So our testing is good on the field. I'm not panicking. This is not an emergency. But I do feel that we have to fund it. The average life of these fields is probably in the 17, 15-year range. We're coming up on that by the time we actually fund the project. I know it's frustrating.
I mean, I'm surprised at that, because that's not what the manufacturer told us when they did it. They
That's
said
frustrating, isn't it?
that fields down south, maybe it's like 10 years, because they're really played on year-round.
Correct.
15 hours a day in the hot sun, whereas up here, they're really not used to anywhere near the capacity that a southern field may be used. But you're saying that this is about done?
Yeah, that's about the average life is about 15 years on in the fields. And that's where it is. Montville, where I came from, in Montville, we got
Where was that?
19 years.
Where was that?
Montville, Connecticut. That's where I worked hard.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was about 19 years. And we added rubber every single year. We had it maintained every single year.
So you actually maintained your field?
Yeah. So at this point, what happens is if there's no maintenance on the field, the field will fold.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah. So that causes overwear because you're.
No, I know, I got it.
Right,
The committee that put the field in, right?
Well, it's in its field. I mean, it's the question is, and it just not go off target here. The question is on the field is the turf length, because the newer fields are back to longer again. You guys installed the shorter fields, so it's.
Now, as far as restoring, you're talking about, obviously, the fill, obviously then the rub too.
Yeah.
What about underneath? What about drainage? What about all
It
that?
seems like, I mean, I'm not sure, it's a good question, I'm not asked that, I thought it would be like a carpet pool replace, you know? I know
think it should be, yeah.
our current.
Has there been any issues with heavy rains? It's been draining pretty well?
It's been draining well, the only issue is our current, there's the curb drain that goes all the way around the field, it's completely clogged, so we've been maintaining that now. So we're sending snakes down, it goes down like 3 feet, makes a turn into a drainage system. And the rubbers kind of clog the pipes, so we're working on releasing we've been working on that.
All right. Well, it'll be easier to handle that once it's pulled and
Yep, and a lot of times when they replace the field, they actually remove that curb drain on the track now. That seems to be the common thing.
Right, exactly. And I thought we needed to replace the track when we did it, frankly, so I'm not surprised the track needs to be done, because it needed to be done 10 years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Is the goal to get it done summer 2027?
So it would actually, and that's the problem, so no, I would actually have to start it in March.
2027.
Yeah, that would be great. I need the funding earlier. So basically, if you funded me July 1st, then I would have to set up for March the following year, because I'd get in there as soon as I can and start working on that. Unfortunately, it's going to mean probably no sports, no graduation is at the school that year, which is unfortunate. It's always a tough year.
But, so we have the 750, if we funded another 750 this year, you could start, but then you'd still need another 750
yes.
to finish it.
850.
Okay. But you do need that initial 750 you're asking for this year to get started in March?
Yeah, what I'll probably do is get a set of drawings made up and get a bid package put together, and that way we can get some idea where we're at. I have the old drawings from the first project, so I'll probably contact the same vendor or whatever and get a set of drawings made up for a proposal so we can go out and bid.
Well, I appreciate I have a level of confidence, because you've dealt with this before and you run the Montville field, I'm familiar with that.
Right.
So I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
high school roof, which is $154. The high school roof is over 20 years old. It's at this point, it's past its warranty. It's a polyvinyl chloride roof. We're looking at installing an EDPM roof on that roof. We have some leaking issues. I had a thermal study done on the roof. New thermal studies are absolutely awesome. They use a drone and fly over it, you get a full picture. Not like the old ones where they just took a picture, heat in there. And it is about 5% wet right now, which is not like panic mode. It's common for roofs to show some sign of wetness. The roof itself, what we're looking at replacing is just the flat roof. Or whenever you guys done the standing seam roof on the parts of the building, use the stainless steel product, and there's no screws in it. 2 thumbs up. It was a great job. So it's just a matter of replacing our flat roof. I've got a quote from architect. It's basically 3.1 million is the actual cost of the roof replacement. There would be additional costs in that, so the total ask is 3.5 million, 90,934. That would be, what happens is the state will only fund a 20-year roof, that's it. So anything you do above that 20 years is completely out of the town's pocket. And at this point, to add 10 years to make it a thicker roof is $179,000. So you pay that $179 and you get 10 more years on a roof. Compared to the price per year, it's a deal. It is a great deal. So I've added that in as an option, and then there's $341,000 of contingency in that. So that takes us from the 3.1 million up to 3,500,000. Yeah,
2.6.
yeah, 2.6 is your actual out of pocket. Give me 2 seconds. You got questions? Actually,
Are you confident with that state reimbursement at that level?
Yeah, it seems like a good level for us. I think we went through some of the things that would be included and everything that was in there, and it would be a 30%. I think it's 30.
30?
Yeah, 30. Jim would sort of currently percent.
So many years ago it was 34.
Well, it's in the 32 range.
32.
Yeah. Now, is this like a school construction project where we have to
Yes, sir.
fully fund it up front?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You have
Get
to.
reimbursed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have to commit to the total funds, and we got to make it so we don't underestimate the cost, because they don't give us any more money if we make it.
Right.
So we'll go through that cleanup part once it's fully funded. Like heading towards fully funded, then we'll go through the cleanup part. I'll get set drawings, we can get some good numbers.
Okay, the $1 million request that was in this budget is in the bond. So
Yeah.
it's not in our annual CIP request. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
The amount of the bond is actually $2,100,000 plus whatever they were reallocated in prior SIP budgets.
Right.
So that gets us to what, 3.5 million or something?
Yeah. So we base it, yeah, okay.
In the SIP standing unused is, I think, I'm winging it right now, it's about 120,000, 160,000 for ladders and maybe skylight replacement. I didn't follow through with our work, knowing we're going to replace the roof, because that work will be funded at 50%, because if it's OSHA required,
Yep.
so we'll get,
So it'll be part of the project?
yes.
Good.
So, look at the $1 million in the bond, what would be the total cost of this?
So okay.
Dave, just, I think there's 2.2 million,
1 million.
2.1 million in the bond. It just been, there was 1.1, then we added another one from this SIP. So the bond has the whole, everything we need.
So it's 3.9 million, you said,
3.6.
3.5 million,
3.5
3.5
minus
90,000.
the 2.1 that's in the bond, I guess. So 2.1.
1.1 in the bond.
Yeah, some
1.4 has already been funded in SIP.
fully funded in the fall.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
getting, because right now we're dealing, I'm not sure if anybody went to the play, there was water pouring in from the roof right in the entry door for the auditorium. There's a built-in gutter in the roof right above there, and we made 5 attempts to repair it using Siltown roofing, just to rip that out of the roof and redo that whole thing at this point. We just tried our best, we can't.
I had somebody tell me about just this afternoon.
Yeah, no, it's not that we've not been addressing it, it's just the point I don't want to spend $8,000 or $10,000 replacing in roof gutter and knowing that the roof.
Flush it down the toilet.
Yeah, right, but I got pictures from the fire marshal, I got pictures from everybody involved. It's not a good look for the town, and it's becoming a safety issue.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna have to address it.
Steve, will the contract include coverage for whatever's underneath the EPDM that?
So that would be the insulation. I think once it's actually written up, right now, like they assume that the insulation is going to have to be replaced because obviously we got wet insulation we can't use. So insulation is replaced, roofs rerun. Depending, and actually, I'm not sure what this actually means, but I was told about a week ago that Stonington High School still has some wooden roof sections. And I've never heard of a commercial building having a wooden roof section, so I'm going to investigate that and see what it actually means. There's 2 sections of the roof that are wood.
Does the pitch need to be corrected in order to prevent?
So in the state requirement for us to get funding, we have to make a certain pitch. So that you're absolutely right, 100%. There is a pitch requirement. I'm sure within 20 years that's been a no requirement, not unless they've adjusted that pitch. Our roof probably made the pitch requirement 20 years ago, you know. So I've not went through 100%, and the architect did not mention a pitch adjustment when he walked the roof and we went through all.
Probably would be good to make that explicit.
Yeah, right. We will probably, I think it's like, just like the football field. Excuse me. Now that there's funds locked in and available, I'll have somebody come in and do a set of drawings and get all the details that are required for them to take it to the state. Same person that does the drawings would then follow through and do our state submittal and get our funding. So in that way, I've got a bid package to put together before the roof's ready to go.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
I know you've already done a lot of work on solar, which we appreciate. Do you know, would this roof be an appropriate place to explore that?
I'd love to do solar. Right now, we've lost what I've had is we were looking at trying to purchase solar for the schools. In the current program that they have open for schools to enter in, they created like a niche market for schools where we were competitively bidding against like Walmarts and Amazons. But it was such a terribly worded program that it was frustrating, not just for us, but for Jim trying to go through it and come up with us to sign up. Basically, we were going to buy the rights to the credits for the town of Stonington, and we would be the owners of the system. We would just hire a contractor to install. But what I've heard is that recently we were able to claim a 30% tax credit at that point. As a non-profit, we could still get the instant 30% of cost. That I believe that's been removed, so we're going to have to look at it in a different way and see if it's still available for commercial companies. So we may end up looking at a PPA. I've not talked to the Board of Education about this, but just some issues. I'd love to do solar. I'd love to do solar on the high school and also on land in West Vine and Dean's Mill, because currently we're heading towards, if I just talked to our current supplier, and the current rates are coming in around 13 in Massachusetts, 13 and 14 for supply. If we get solar, it's like a locked rate. When I left Montville was locked at 7.9, no escalation, 1 million kilowatt hours an hour, 1 million kilowatt hours, and there was no transportation tied to that. So they were a flat rate 7.9, I put that system in there, plus it offset the demand because it was tied directly to two buildings. It was a great idea. And it basically creates a physical budget for me for 5 years. Well, I'm going to say 25 years because I'm not going to be here, but for maybe 10 years, you know. So it creates a physical budget so that I can predict what my power costs would be for at least that percentage of my power.
Just out of curiosity, what would
Yes, sir.
how long do they normally last?
So basically everything's got like a nail percentage, so it's like life 80%, life 70%, and they do it with everything, like everything electronic that we say we work with. They say it's got an expected life. So solar has got an expected life of 25 years. Inverters are usually more commonly 15 years. So in that 25-year life for the panel, they're saying in 25 years that panel's going to be produce 80% of what it's producing now. It's not going to turn off and we throw it away. It could get a longer life, but it'll just be less efficient than what it is now. And our ultimate goal is right now is we're trying to crush our power consumption. And I think we've been really working on efficiency. Right now, the power consumption at Stony High School is down approximately 25%. So, which is close to about 450,000 kilowatt hours. So we've been working really hard to get the less power we require, the smaller the solar array becomes, and the less expensive it is. So you want to be efficient, then put solar on.
Please let us know if we can give any help on that.
I'd love to do it, I really would. And I'd like to bring, I think the problem for me is I'm in the Board of Education side, and there is the town side, there's a financial with a solar array attached to both sides of the town and the Board of Education. It's like our electric bill being offset, but there could be a cost to the town. I think it would be nice if we could like speak out a term for Board of Education, maybe like set up like a small committee to talk that through, how we could propose something that would work for both town.
Well, we did it with IT, right? Economies of scale,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay.
makes sense.
You know, something and come up, and then that way we can do one standard presentation with all players involved, and we can all be agreed on how we want to do it, and I think that would be better for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Bill looks really excited for your committee.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so what comes after the roof here?
I've got the repaving of 40 Street. So I don't know if that's still in your, it was line 157. So,
Okay, ours, mine's 157.
Did you say the boiler?
No,
repaving,
Field Street,
we may have pulled it out.
I think the Board of Selectmen seems to have
We may have
set
pulled it.
that at $1.
Yeah, that's fine. We're good with that one. We'll skip it.
Boiler?
The boiler, so the SMS boilers, we partially funded that. Our expectation is roughly $321,591 per year. Total cost of replacement is in the $1.2 million. The boilers are at their end of life. The water heater is past the end of life. I'm scared to actually physically work on the water heater because if we actually open valves to try and drain it, I don't think we can shut it back off again. It's an older style water heater. It's kind of like, it's about 30 feet high, 2.5 feet around. It looks like a missile in the basement. You know, it's just definitely past its life expectancy. It's got an old flatbed hot water heater that sits beside it in the storage tank. The newer systems, we're hoping to just install 2 new boilers and do a storage tank system to heat the hot water off of the boilers. The new boilers run from 1 million to 150,000. They're varying flame levels, so they're super efficient, so you're not running a huge big boiler to run a water heater.
Okay. Board of Selectmen seems to bumped up your original request by $107,000.
On the,
on the boiler.
I don't think you guys funded it last year, did you? I can't answer.
Yeah, we did, it got pulled out, so it's 428-ish.
Yeah, so you've got 428 over 3 years instead of 321, 591 over 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I tried to put it out, it hurt me a lot to put it out that far, but not knowing what's going on with the schools, the last thing I want to do is put brand new boilers in a school that you're considering renovating or doing something with, only to find out that boilers are too small for any renovation that was planned on that building, so I put it out 4 years.
What happens if it goes?
And, I mean, there's 2 boilers, so it wouldn't be a disaster. I mean, the water heater goes, it'll be a long week for me getting hot water back in that building, but it can be done. So it's an actual gas stove, so there is options. There is options.
The one boiler, new one, you replace it too?
No, actually, we would probably go with 3 small boilers instead of 2 big boilers.
Okay.
Because right now, I mean, the basic theory of boilers in the old style is if you needed 10 million BTUs, you had 2 10 million boilers, BTU boilers. If one failed, you could still heat the school. The new theory of life is you go with 4 smaller boilers, and that way, when if one goes out, you've only lost a quarter, lowering your total boiler size, using being more efficient, not having such a big boiler running when you don't need it.
So they're both about the same shape?
Yeah, they're both in the same shape. In '87, they're probably 30-something years old, 40 years old, 36. They're old. They're past their life, and they're still running. They're not leaking. There's no damage. It's not like I'm calling the alarm. I'm just preventing, at that point a replacement.
Given how the age of the building, is it sufficiently insulated? Has that been looked at to support whatever you're planning to do?
I can't answer that. No, it's a good question. No, I can't answer that. I was trying to think of something, but no, there's nothing in there. I got nothing for you. I can't even answer it. I don't even know.
Sometimes it's
Just
okay
scan
to
us
make
there
things
for a
up.
second.
Right? No, I can't make it up. I'd rather say I don't know. So, no, I don't.
Just a suggestion that.
Yeah, no, it would be good. I mean, unfortunately, that building's going to need some work. This is a whole other story. The lintels have got to be replaced on it. They're all rotten now. The windows, and at that point, we've got to replace the windows because the windows come out, they don't go back in if they're 30 years old. But what's going on is the old lintels are actually swelling up. They're not galvanized. So as they push apart, they're breaking the brick off. Water's coming in. So if you go in some of the rooms, there's wet ceilings right at the windows. So, and that's about $1 million, ripping all them windows out and the window lintels. So maybe when we do that, we'll pay an insulating windows too. They have new windows that are super insulated. I was looking at them.
Okay, where are we going next?
Field line control, which is 163.
I don't think we have that.
It's 162.
Oh, field day, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Field lighting control, huh?
Yep. So
What
field.
about the stairs?
Huh?
The stairs?
Stonington High School replace exterior stairs. It's like a $17,000, $750.
Sorry, I'm not
We
sure.
don't need it, we're good.
I need it. It's just it's not in order with you guys.
Oh,
It's
okay.
R161, Steve.
Life Skills Kitchen.
It's right after Life Skills Kitchen.
I'm missing it. So the Stonington stairs. Right now, the current stairs leaving the auditorium, the gym to the field, they've got the metal tracks on the edge of the stairs. We've actually replaced them. I tried to re-screw them down. The stairs are starting to crumble. It's just years of salt, years of wear. They're becoming a safety issue. There's no way to repair them. And when I don't know if people were working for me, I want to say it was 17,000.
Good job.
Yeah, right. So it's 17,000 to replace the stairs. It is a safety issue. We're actually, if you notice, most of my requests are either safety or code. That's basically where we go in right now, and that's where our department seems to be.
Okay. Now the lighting control.
So light control, currently in Stonington High School, the field light control system is an electrical panel. So basically they unlock the panel, it's on the breakers on, it's on the lights on. Some breakers are rated to be switches, but I'm not sure if their breakers are. It is not a safe and smart way to turn lights on, especially in the rain. So what we're proposing is a 10-year contract with Musco, who is like the Apple phones of field lighting control systems. They'll provide a service, they'll turn them on and off. We'll be able to give password codes. And Brian Woodwin's not going to drive down there on a Saturday morning, or Saturday night, it's on the lights on for a game or whatever. We can schedule everything through the computer, plus it's super safe, no more people in panels.
Yeah, Paul and I wanted to do this
Yeah.
in 2013.
Yeah.
2012, whenever.
Yeah, no, it is you have the Musco lights, so it's just a matter of running the.
And we funded half of it last year, so.
Yep.
This is a request to fund the rest of it.
Yep.
So, radios, is that you?
Yes,
Yep.
this radio is, so we've replaced, we went through the first part of this, we replaced the district radios. When I got here, there was some major issues with the radio system. There was a lot of calls not being responded to because the current radio system did not function correctly or needed to be replaced. So we have replaced the radios, that was the first part. The second part is installing the repeater system. We work with the police to come up with a system that would interconnect with the police, interconnect the schools, and also rebroadcast the signal within the schools, strengthening the radio signal. What this does is it lets the police come in our radio system. It lets us, in an emergency, use a radio and talk to another school through a digital packet that goes into the repeater. We switched to digital radios. It's still the lower frequency radios that make it through the walls, but it's a really good package. And I worked with Brian Schneider to get the package to make sense for us and the police.
How many radios are there?
194. And throughout, and you find like the heavy hitters are always the elementary schools. They have a radio per classroom, so if they take the kids out, they bring out a radio. So like some of the elementaries can run 50 radios, 55 radios. Ironically, you go to high school and they've got like 18 radios. You know, it seems like our big players are the elementary schools. And then the rest of that are kind of going through staff and maintenance. And the nice thing about the repeaters, once it's installed, we can actually create our own virtual channels inside the network. And we can have radios, we're using old radios, but we can reuse some of the old radios to have like an IT radio channel, a maintenance radio channel. That way we're not talking over the current school channels. And then right now, I'd say no, we're not. We've corrected a problem that we had no PL on our radio system, which means our radios were not private. They were broadcast out via any kind of receiver. You could hear us or view the radio in that frequency. But right now we've corrected that going to digital. It's really hard to pick our signal up and decipher that. So it was a security thing too.
Okay.
So this radio connects with the police department?
Yeah, so basically they'll carry a radio and basically they'll have access to our channels when they come in, and they can talk to any school through the digital, because it's a digital radio.
It's part of the state system, right?
No, it is not. No, it's
But it's
not.
tied to the police
Yes, it is.
system, which is part of the state system.
Yes. Well, it's tied to the police radio system.
Okay.
I don't know if it's tied to the state system. I can't answer that.
Building management software.
So basically, I'm just updating our building management software, complying with security requirements. Because Chris thinks some of it is contaminated to his network. So he's having me update my security, my software. Right now, we can't bring in any updates when we're having some issues, and we had some issues. Our software license is out of date. We own the software. This is an upgrade to the software. It's not like to bring it to, and it matches Chris's move from the current server system to the next server system. He's always so eloquent and annoys me.
Okay, maintenance building.
Maintenance building, so this came in is a runabout I think it was like backdoor bargaining is the best way to describe it. So the town public works is requesting the building that we own on Spielman Park. It was what we used when we maintained the fields. It's a garage and it's in a perfect location for the town to use it, store tractors. We have actually removed some stuff and they have half of that right now, which seems only fair because they're doing the field.
Is this the cinder one?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we're basically, they're asking for that building. I've now went through the Board of Education with this. This is like so our plan was in consideration for giving that space up. Our current building that we're using as a maintenance building at Stonington High School, the metal facade on that building is shot. It's done. I'm not sure the complete age of that building, but it's a metal building. It's down by the corner of the blue building by the field. So basically what we're proposing is we want to give up the Spielman Park building. In return, we want to evaluate our building to be extended and re-sided. We would extend that building out by about 25 feet or 30 feet and remove some of the little huts that are up alongside of the field. They would go away. Yeah, there is.
Series of them.
It's like a flea market, but I didn't want to see that one.
Doesn't Public Works have a request in for a building?
Yes, they done that. They threw that, and then I didn't know anything about it. I was bargaining with them. That was their case in the home, so they played two hands in that.
Okay, so between the two of you guys, between the school, I should say this way, between the school department and the town,
Right.
we need some more
Yeah.
building space at
Yes, sir.
Summer Park.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so we need to figure out the most efficient way to do that.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we're to the tractor.
Yes, sir. The tractor is another backdoor town deal. So at some point, the SCO system purchased a skid steer with various attachments. The skid steer being a large piece of equipment, a heavy piece of equipment, and not having good backup visibility in our SCO parking lots, it's basically being used to unload trucks. The town come and pick it up on a weekly basis to use it on the roads and really use it, you know. It seems like our current tractor, we have a tractor in stock along with this skid steer. It's a nice tractor, it's older and it's pretty small, it's heavy horse, and I think the pickup weight's 1,100 pounds. So for us unloading pallets, it's not got the quick connect where we can go from bucket to forks. So basically I've had contractor look at that tractor and made an offer along with some other equipment that we have to trade in. What we're doing is we're offering the town, after I get permission from Board of Education, the skid steer for us, and for our ask on that is we trade in the tractor, we get a replacement tractor that's just a little bit bigger. It's got a 2,000 pound lift at the forks, plus it would be good for snow. It's a bigger tractor and it's got a cab on it. So they can be out there in the snowstorm, and it's kind of ironic, like the last couple of snowstorms or whoppers. But it'd be nice to have a big piece of equipment that's got back visibility when they're backing up. The skid steer there is zero visibility in that for backing up. It takes a skilled person to constantly drive that, and it's not a good vehicle for a custodian to be driving around in the schoolyard with his kids. So our goal is to replace our tractor, and our goal is, if that was to move forward, then let the town take over the current skid steer.
So the offset is for the town to purchase the skid steer?
No,
No,
the town,
what they're proposing is we get the skid steer
yes,
in exchange for funding them an upgraded tractor.
it's wheeling and dealing.
It doesn't show up in the budget.
Sorry?
It doesn't show up in the budget, just the.
Just a transfer of an asset.
And the town uses it all the time. They've actually got it now. I mean, it spends more time at the town than it does with us.
Then why do we need a deal for it? We can just use it whenever we want now.
That we're getting it back.
And it just makes.
What's skid steer?
Yeah, right. It's funny. We can skip the maintenance van. We've been through that. Chariot floor scrubbing machines. That is
Next
one.
thing on, Steve, the next thing on my list is extend boiler chimney at district office.
Okay, so the extension of the boiler chimney is here. So currently on the roof here, we have 2 roof units within 6 feet of the chimney, and I had Union Mechanical bring in a specialist to look at the roof draft and the height of the chimney, because right now we're sucking in exhaust fumes. So basically, as the chimney gases come out, there's a roll on the roof according to the chimney guy, or chimney's not high enough. And we're actually bringing exhaust gases back down on the roof, with both units being within 6 feet of the chimney. It's actually Mr. Smith, or superintendent, who's actually getting suffocated. So the fumes are going directly in his office. They're going through that unit. We've tried to shut the doors down. Right now the unit's not ran in probably 2 months. We're heating with radiant heat, and that's what brings in the fresh air to that part of the line B and the computer lab upstairs. So basically it's just extend to get a good enough draft that we're not pulling it back down to the building. So
And it's been that way for ever, right?
That's in this building,
yes, sir.
yeah.
Oh, I was getting Field Street mixed up there.
No, it's
I
here.
understand, it's in this building.
Yes, it is in this building.
That's all we have.
That's all we have. Do you have anything else?
I've got the chariot for scrubbing machines.
That might be your one line.
That's 155, right?
Oh, let's go back up.
Oh,
Floor burners.
Yeah. It's $1,378.
Yep.
So this is actually a replacement of 2 pieces of equipment. Since I came here, we've replaced the batteries in the chariots and had a company go in and go through them, so we actually have functioning chariots, either scrubbers or buffers. These 2 particular units, the motors are shot on the units. At that point, the cost of that whole assembly outweighs the cost of replacing the unit. The batteries will be reclaimed and we'll reuse the batteries in our system, and then the chariot will be. So it's just equipment replacement. Hopefully moving forward, you never hear me ask for small pieces of equipment. I'll be able to put it in my budget and maintain that equipment, and I'm not going in here for $10,000 for a chariot. I have an equipment budget, but not enough to do that this year.
How many of them are there?
2. They're about 10,000 a piece.
Steve, what would be the impact of just getting one?
I mean, if I was going to give something up, I would give you absolutely give you a chariot. One chariot, one chariot.
10,000.
it on CIP?
Huh?
Is that it on CIP?
Yes.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Now we're going to the slideshow.
Yes. Can I request a
Sure.
60-second recess, just to stretch the legs?
We can, why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Okay.
Okay, is everybody ready to move on here? So we're going to do slides first, right?
Yeah, I just want to
Whatever
take
you
a
guys want to do, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank the Board of Finance, Chairman Sternberg, for your time and volunteerism. We recognize that you have a hard job in front of you in approving these budgets. And I just want to make sure that all the board members, if you're new or sitting, kind of like understand the process that we go through here at the Board of Education to come up with our budget. We take our, we provide you with full detailed budget. I know some of you have been on the board before, so just seeing it for the first time, it might be overwhelming, but we wanted to give you full transparency of where we spend the money in every school, district office, and all of that. We take our current school budget and then we look at our obligatory and contractual operation or contractual obligations, and we look at that number, and that's the first budget version we look at. And then I know the superintendent and the cabinet team meets with the principals of the schools and the management team and come up with a list of improvement requests that they come up with, and then the superintendent kind of like meets them somewhere in the middle and presents a budget for the Board of Education consideration. So those are the iterations that we go through them. So when we looked at our budget as it stood by adding just obligatory contractual things that we needed or were agreed upon, we were at a 5.28% of increase, and the final presented budget by the superintendent, which the Board of Education approved, was at 5.82% of an increase year over year. I just want to quickly highlight some of these increases and the significance of them and why we have approved them. But we had cut, I shouldn't say cut, we rethought library specialist in elementary school to be half a position. This model hasn't been very successful, and we want to go back to full librarian in each elementary school. The total number we're talking about is $250,000, just for point of reference, and I'm rounding. And then we have an English language teacher. We have 29 kids in our school system that English is not their first language, so we're trying to make sure that we have the support of those children in our school system. Behavior technician, speech teacher, math interventionist, social studies teacher, and a board certified behavior analyst. I've included those positions in my letter to you. I hope you all had the chance to read it. But I just wanted to do this quick introduction and give you a flavor of the process we go through. I know you're probably all familiar with it and watch our board meetings, but I just wanted to make sure that you know that beyond the meetings, just like you, we have our homework. We go, we study, we debate, we discuss, we send questions, we get answers, and that's how we reach this budget item. I'm going to turn it over to Alicia, and she will lead us from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Farouk. For those of you that I haven't met, I am Alicia Stripling, the Director of Finance and Personnel for the district. Farouk stole some of my talking points, so I'll zip through those pretty quickly. Just want to give you an overview so that as I'm going along, if you have questions that you think of, just so you know what's coming, so that you may realize that your questions will shortly be answered. We'll first go over the, just the budget overview, what we're requesting. I'll delve a little bit deeper into the budget development process that Farouk touched upon. And then I'll talk about the different considerations that the leadership team and Board of Education think about when we're doing the budget. And then just a quick slide at the end on what the tax burden to the average household will be. So the total request is for a $48.3 million budget, and that is a 5.82% increase over last year's. I know you can't read these numbers. The point is not for you to see these numbers. I know it's too small. I just wanted to walk you through because for those of you who are new or haven't looked at a Board of Ed budget in a few years, we do the process a little bit differently now. So the entire budget is broken out into different cost centers for each building for our major departments, IT, special education, curriculum. And so for each of those, we create a dashboard. And the purpose of that is because, number one, the budget is so long and can be so overwhelming, we try to break it out into different summaries and different presentation styles so that depending on what kind of stakeholder you are, there's something that will help you to understand our budget better. So these dashboards not only give an overview of each of the cost centers, but will also track all of the changes because that can get really hard to follow in all of the detail pages for each of the cost centers. And so this just summarizes for you. You may not know exactly what the change was, but you know where it happened, and then you can ask the question if you're looking for more information. There is also a detail page that I spoke about for each of the cost centers. I just wanted to point out something that has come up from the Board of Education, just not understanding what the comments mean. So when you see in the comments on the detail pages, where it says shifted 0.4 FTE, you don't have to look at this specifically, but the account codes matter for education, right? So we're reporting to the state, and all of the districts are supposed to be doing it on, it's a loose uniform chart of accounts. It's not exactly the same for all districts, but some of those codes are really important. And so at the end of the year, when I report to the state all of the different breakdowns of where we spent our money, those account codes are really important. So if as I'm going through, I see something that needs to be shifted, then I'll indicate that. So you'll see shifted to here, but then somewhere else in the budget, you should see shifted from the same spot. This example that I'm showing you here, where it says shifted 0.4 FTE to WL, which is world language, and shifted 0.4 FTE from English, that type of situation is just the change in enrollment in classes for the high school. So we have teachers who are dual certified. They can teach multiple content areas. And so depending on what the enrollment in a particular course is, the high school administration may decide to shift part of that one teacher's time to a different content area. Does that make sense? Okay. The object codes tell you where we're spending the money, and as you can see, the salary and benefits is always the biggest part of our budget. And again, just the roadmap that Farouk spoke about, we first look at if we do all the things that we're doing this year, next year, and take all of the salary increases and vendor increases into consideration, what is that percentage? And then we move on to step 2, where we've met with the leadership team, who are really the experts at our buildings, who tell us what the students need in the upcoming year. And then we work within that information for the proposed budget. Again, salaries and benefits are always the biggest driver. Our transportation contract, the first year, so it's a 5-year contract, the first year was a 14% increase. And then every year thereafter, next year is the last year of that contract. it's a 5% increase. That's another really big part of our budget that increases year over year. Special education, despite Allison's best efforts, those costs continue to rise. And we'll talk more as we go along about the different student needs that we're seeing. And a lot of special education students have needs that we can't meet in district or couldn't in the past meet in district. And so they will have out-of-district placements. And those are defined by their individualized education plans. And the cost of those outside providers has gone up dramatically over the last several years. The state is talking about putting caps on the amount that things can change year over year to give districts some predictability for their budgets. We haven't seen that happen yet. And so when we come to you with the maintained services, we've already done a lot of homework. And so that's why we started doing these different iterations, because this used to happen behind closed doors. And so when we would come to you, it would just look like we just asked for everything that we might have wanted and hadn't done our due diligence in trying to reduce lines. So in that maintained services iteration, we've reduced 57 total lines already. And that could be based on a review of the prior year actuals or the trends that we're seeing in the current year. For utilities, Steve has achieved a lot of efficiencies, and so that number is decreasing despite the fact that our contract is up this year, and so we know that we will have an increase in our rate for next year, but we're still able to reduce that overall request. We also look at enrollment projections, and I just want to say a couple of things about this. So these slides that you're going to see, this is us taking this year's information and just moving those numbers up. So it's not like we're looking, in these figures, we're not looking at what housing developments are happening and what types of things might impact enrollment. We're really just taking the current grade levels and moving them up one. And so you can see that the average class sizes for kindergarten and first grade tend to be the lowest, and that's intentional, right? Those students need more adult supervision than our older students. So that's at Dean's Mill. And these are the class sizes for West Vine Street. There is a request for an increase in staffing at West Vine, and so when you see that asterisk there, that would be the difference if we actually added that additional staff member. Do you want to talk a bit about the needs for that kindergarten class? Do you want me to skip ahead a little? We'll talk about it after. Okay, we'll talk about that after.
Well, before you leave that slide, can you go back?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the questions I had and is, you want to add somebody, you want to add a full-time equivalent to lower the first grade class size, right?
Yes.
Okay, but the fifth grade class size is tiny. Why aren't you just moving the billet?
So that's a great question, and I would have to defer to somebody who isn't here on that,
I guess,
the needs of that class as well.
could you go back to the DMS slide just to see so it does look like for DMS, K and 1 are both a smaller ratio, and then West Vine doesn't they have the 4, but West Vine doesn't have that currently, right? They have 3.
Correct.
I do have to comment. This presentation does not match the presentation we were sent. So it's I have notes on the presentation I was sent. It's very hard to follow, and you've had added slides that I can't read from the screen.
I don't know where you got a presentation because I didn't send anything.
We got something.
The budget sent on Friday.
Yeah, the budget, and we'll go through any questions that you
Okay,
have on
well-
the budget.
Well, if you didn't send something, it would have been helpful to everybody sitting at this table if we had everything you were going to present in advance. It's just, I have to work from what I have. I've made notes, and they're,
No, I think she's just going right, going through this and then we'll go line by line through it? I think this is.
Yeah, but there's comments on these slides that, it would have been helpful to have had this in advance so we could follow along easier. Thanks.
Well, you hit the question that I had also was on West Vine is, certainly 18 is too large, I know for first grade, but fifth grade, 18 certainly isn't too large. So you're saying someone here can't answer that question. But anyway, you're seeing where our questions are, so that's fine. That's all right.
Yep, and I'm happy to talk to the principal that requested that. Typically, I'm here doing this with the superintendent of schools who can answer those questions better.
I understand.
So,
Commissioner, could you go back one more just to see the total for West Vine? So they have 320, okay. And you'll send this out, right?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
I continued to field questions throughout the weekend, so I really was trying to have all of the information from those questions in the presentation today, which took until about 6:45 to get all of that in, so.
I have a process question.
Okay,
I'm pretty familiar with the way hospitals budget. And as everyone knows, Medicaid doesn't cover the bills by a long shot.
right.
Medicare barely covers costs. So what hospitals have transitioned to is kind of zero-based budgeting. So every year they go back to the first principle and then decide what they need. It seems that what the Board of Ed does is that it builds the new budget off of the previous year's budget. So how much do you look at some legacy processes that can be looked at and perhaps altered or altogether eliminated? Because I think what we're looking at is that every year there's a request for X amount, and then the Board of Finance says, no, you can't have that, you can have 80% of it. But it would be very useful to have you look, perhaps you already are, at the entire all $48 million and see how much of it you really need, especially with the changes in enrollment that we're starting to discuss now.
So I do go through every single line and every salary amount because those change year over year as well, of course. So I am looking at those things every year. I think principals are probably reluctant to hand over resources that they have because they already feel like they're limited. But I can certainly bring that back to the team and.
Well, it's not our job to micromanage what you do, but we need to get a sense of the integrity of the process, that you're working as hard as we are to provide full value to the taxpayers. So whether principals are happy or not is really not up for discussion from my perspective. Obviously, it's important to you, but if I could suggest, and perhaps others feel similarly, to just look at everything rather than just build off of the previous year's budget and then add to it with want to have mandated the changing landscape of special ed and everything else.
So I will go back and say, I'm just going through and trying to help you guys understand what's going on, what the landscape of the education environment looks like right now. I'm happy to answer your questions about numbers. If you want to skip all of this, we can certainly do that as well. I just thought that you guys might want to develop an understanding of what the needs in the schools are. So if you don't want to do that, then I can just start answering your questions about budget numbers.
I would just interject, I was really impressed with this presentation. I get what Bill's saying that, obviously in an ideal world, we'd get this ahead of time, but you're probably working up to the last minute. So I think this is really helpful. And I get where you said, and just so you guys know, Gene made the same comment to the town during our budget or Bill's budget, same thing. So it's not like he's holding you to a different standard about the zero-based budgeting. But also get where you're coming from, that it's hard to do. I think your comment about resources, like people feel like they're already doing more with less, and to take more away would be challenging. But I love the earlier slides. I think that was really helpful to show the process that you already went through to cut things from the maintained budget. Right. So I think they took it a step, and I mean, we can always improve and do more, but I do think you did kind of do the exercise that we're talking about, if I understood that earlier slide, where you went through and actually looked at where we could make cuts based on this past year's budget. You didn't just keep adding.
Correct.
This is helpful, so I don't want you to stop.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, and it has a lot of good information that I was looking for.
Okay.
And it answers a lot of questions, so I appreciate it.
Okay, good. We'll continue on then. Thank you. The enrollment projections at the middle school, I'm going to go ahead a couple of slides just to, more than a couple. I also want to talk about, I know that there are different enrollment numbers, right? So you see something in one presentation and then they might change because we're constantly looking at them. One of the main numbers that we look at as far as enrollment goes is October 1. And we use that number because that's the number used by the Connecticut State Department of Education. That's what all of our grants are based on. That's what our free reduced rates are based on. But then there's also another collection on June 1st. And so as you can see, there are years that those are pretty big differences between those two dates. And so I just wanted to mention that.
Can you back up to that paragraph?
To,
The paragraph?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so just, I'm colorblind, so there's a purple-ish, and a bluish, and a greenish
That's it.
bar.
Sorry, the bluish to the left.
So
the green
plus
to the right.
24 number, I guess that's the 16-17 academic year.
correct.
So that's saying your June number was higher than your actual June number.
Correct.
Was higher than your October number.
Correct.
Okay.
And the only reason I put this in was because we have fielded some questions about, well, why did it say that number on this date and that number on another date? So I just wanted to explain
That's helpful.
the reporting. These are the average class sizes at Stonington Middle School, and again, they are requesting an increase of 2 full-time equivalent classroom teachers. They did lose those 2 positions last year, and they're requesting that those be reinstated this year.
And Alicia, would those be for sixth or the, or
7th and 8th.
Both 7th and 8th, and it's specifically at social studies and science teachers. Stonington High School enrollment numbers, and again, I remind you that we're moving these numbers ahead. And so when you see that next year's enrollment looks higher than this year's, that's because the graduating 12th grade class is small and the incoming 8th grade class for Stonington High School is a larger class. And then we go into the reasons that we can't just show you the class sizes for Stonington High School like we can for the other levels. Yes, there has been declining student enrollment. There has also been a significant increase in the number of employees over that same 10-year period. And the academic expectations that the state places on us, and NEASC, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the NEASC accreditation process, there are certain things that we have to have implemented at the high school in order to meet those requirements. So 2 of the things that really convolute the class sizes at the high school are the more niche classes. So your advanced placement classes, the AP classes that students take, they may have 9 kids in the class. So normally we would say, you can't have a class with 9 kids, you've got to cut a teacher, but we have to offer those classes. Same thing with the career pathways. So this was a state mandate a few years ago. And it's our HBI program, the Home Builders program. It's the CNA certification. There's also a waste management class. And so this is part of the Board of Education's goal of making sure that all of our students are ready for college, enlistment, or a career directly out of high school. So this shows the pretty significant decline in enrollment over the last 10 years. And it also shows the budget increases and inflation rates over those same periods. And as you can see, there are a couple of years that the Board of Education budget actually decreased. I wasn't here for those years, so I'm kind of studying what happened over that time period. I do know in 16-17 special education, we in-housed that program so that we could help to control those costs. 17-18, I know you guys are much more familiar with this because a lot of you were on the committee, but the Board of Education voted to reduce the number of schools by 2. And so I suspect that the decrease in the budget was due to those things. So over the last 10 years, enrollment has declined by 436 students. The programming has evolved to meet the different needs of students and the different mandates that are placed on the district by the state, and the different student needs that we're seeing. I know everybody's tired of talking about the pandemic, and I am as well, but we are definitely still seeing impacts from that.
I'm going to ask you to go back a couple slides to the high school, and you showed a decline in staffing, that employee reduction.
Yes, and that's certified and non-certified, and it's total number of people.
That's across the district.
That's the high school
Just the
over
high
10 years.
Okay. All right, so instead of 125 10 years ago, there's 92.
Correct. And the reason that I included this is because I hear a lot that, enrollment is
That was one
going...
of my key questions. I mean, you've got enrollment going down, down, down. There has to be an impact. And that's something that I couldn't read in here.
Right.
And that's something that we saw in, and I know you can't just say, it's not the same as elementary and middle school. I know you can't do that, but you did it there, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't know where I was. Okay, so these are some of the mostly positions that have been eliminated over the last 3 years. I will be honest and say that I tried to go back further, and I was afraid of presenting inaccurate information because I wasn't here, and I tried to piece together, but our payroll system wasn't completely accurate before, and I just really didn't feel confident presenting beyond that. So in 23-24, we reduced the business office staffing by 1 person. We eliminated transportation to, the district for a while offered summer programming at the elementary and middle school levels, and there was transportation offered for that. So that was removed in 23-24. 3 full-time teachers at Stonington High School were eliminated. 0.4 para. And just in case anybody's not familiar with FTEs, full-time equivalents, that number, that 0.4 is determined by the number of hours that the person works. So if your typical para works 35 hours per week, then that person works 0.4 of that number of hours. In 23-24, also a middle school hall monitor and library para were eliminated. 24-25, we shifted the way that we were staffing substitutes for the buildings. Before, there was 1 person in each building who was there every single day. A regular employee they were paid a higher daily rate, so the normal daily substitute rate is $150. These people were paid the step 1 bachelor rate of the teacher's contract, which is almost 2.5 times that $150 amount, and they were offered benefits and all of the things that come along with a regular full-time employee. And so when we went to our principals and said, okay, you want these things, you know, kind of speaking to your point, you want these new positions or these new programs, you have to be willing to give something up. And so that was something that was a pretty significant cost savings. And so now it's more difficult for the principals to make sure that they have appropriate substitute staffing every day. But we've replaced that with just the people who make $150 a day, no health benefits, no paid time off, a typical per diem model. So that was switched in 24-25. The summer programming for elementary and middle schools was eliminated. When we look at athletics and we ask the athletic director for enrollment numbers by program, and we look for what's the smallest, right? And so I think winter cheer that year had 5 students. And so when we go to make cuts, we're looking for what has the least impact on the least number of students. And so that year it was winter cheerleading. The middle school lost an interventionist and a music teacher, 1 certified staff from West Vine Street and an interventionist from West Vine Street, and 1 Dean's Mill interventionist. Current year, we eliminated 0.5 of a district office custodian. It has made things difficult, especially in meeting needs for different meetings. But that person, so we have somebody who's at district office and they now leave at 6 and they go and they cover other buildings. So it's reducing our overtime costs and our substitute staffing costs. 0.6 math teacher at the high school was eliminated. An art teacher at the middle school, 2 core content classroom teachers at the middle school. The media specialist at the elementary school, so it was 1 FTE, and that 1 person would work a half a year at West Vine, and then a half a year at Dean's Mill, and then the other half of that year, they would have a STEM class come in. So it was 2 people, and they would flip-flop their time.
Just what's 0.6 of a teacher?
So that was it's a part-time math teacher so it's somebody who either works, that would be 3 days a week, or they work 5 days a week at a reduced number of hours per day.
Alicia, just a few things to clarify. So for 25-26, it looks like you tried to make certain cuts to meet the budget you were
Correct.
given, but you're asking for 2 SMS teachers back, the media specialist back, and just 1 of the West Vine teachers back?
Correct.
Okay. And then, I don't know if Allison, you can speak to this, but like for 24-25, did you see any impact you could share with us on the reduction of the 3 interventionists?
So I can't because it's not my department. So those are general education interventionists. So they're working with students that are not identified yet. So students that have math or reading needs through that early intervention process before they become referrals to special ed.
Okay, assuming we haven't seen that reinstated, maybe if they were able to handle that, is that a fair assumption, like absorb it? Like it didn't come up, I guess, in the Board of Ed request and then get cut for this year?
No.
Okay, correct.
And the West Vine first grade teacher is the same one that was cut in 24.
Thank you.
So we've spoken a couple of times about the different challenges that are faced in education, and the number of English language learners, which Allison will be able to help me with this slide, the number of English language learners in the district has increased pretty significantly over the last few years, and this is really nuanced, and so I've had to learn a lot about how, somebody who's acquiring English as a second language, particularly those younger students who are also learning their native language at the same time. And so it requires different types of support for those students, both teachers pushing into the classroom so that the students are fully immersed in the classroom and getting that curriculum. And also pull-out services where the students can really focus on the language acquisition. And as you can see, there are several different languages that are spoken. So when you have 24 students who English is their second language, they're spread all over the district. Oh, it's 29 now? This information changes every time we present on this. So now we're at 29. And again, it's different languages, so it's not like we can just take each of the, take a whole group of students and put them in one class. It really requires specialized, specialized instruction.
Yeah, so this slide, you can see the representation of the different languages that we have that are spoken. So Russian, Creole, Urdu, Spanish, French, leaving some out, Albanian. So this is in grades kindergarten through 12th. I have kindergartners, I have 12th graders spread throughout the 4 different buildings. Right now, we have always been servicing those students with tutor positions, and one of those tutors who is a non-benefits position, it's a 29-hour-a-week position, also serves as the coordinator to help organize those tutoring support services for these students. But what we're finding with the numbers increasing as dramatically as they are is that we need to take that position and convert it to a full-time position with a person who has direct certification in how to teach students with English as a second language. The other piece we need to be able to use that role to do is to go around the district and provide coaching and support for our classroom teachers. So our classroom teachers are having a tremendous amount, as you can imagine, angst when they have a student. And I will say a lot of these students are not coming in August. They're coming in November and January, and even since we drafted this presentation, I have new students that have come in. So the responsibility of the classroom teacher, because the tutor's not going to be there the whole time, they're floating around and supporting the other students in the school that have the same need. But our hope is to get somebody that has more of the training, certification, and ability to provide coaching and support and training for the teachers. So, again, as if the numbers were to fluctuate, my hope would be that person would be doing some direct time with students, but then a lot of their time would be going around the district to help push in and support the teachers who are supporting these students. This is a big request. I get the phone calls from the principal saying, help, help, help. And that they're, calling to advocate for their teachers.
So this is one FTE. And just, I think I know the answer to this, but can you clarify for me the cost for an FTE? You've got some average cost for.
So typically, I base it on step 6, masters of the teacher's contract, and the cost to the district for a 2-person health insurance. Obviously, those are projections. We don't know what type of experience a teacher is going to come in with, and we don't know what level of health insurance they're going to need. So we use a projection.
How do you find these people? I mean, this is, it's such a wide range of different languages. How do you?
Yeah, so this person wouldn't be able to speak all of those languages. It's just somebody who's an expert at being, helping the students to acquire the English language, especially in consideration of the fact that they may potentially be able to.
You have to have a different person for each language, right?
No.
No.
We're teaching them
We're talking about one position to help with.
Just, can you put a dollar number on your cost of an FTE?
Around 97,000. I think it's 97,333 or something like that.
That's fully loaded?
Correct.
There's nothing else? Okay.
Correct.
Just 100.
Allison, we know the answer to this, but is the state currently debating, or have you heard anything about them looking to any bills that we can support for helping schools fund?
I have not. I found something there's a guide they're also changing, forgive us because we love acronyms, but they're changing the name So I believe there's multilingual learners and there's English learners, so you're also looking at students that have some English acquisition but also speak another language, and that's the multilingual learner, and then you have just the students, so it's a lot. Within that document, I did see something recently about a grant, and I believe it was geared towards districts that had seen a big jump, but I have to look into that further. Typically, when we see grants like that, we often sometimes don't meet the criteria based on the number of students being a very small district, not being an alliance district. But it's definitely something I want to look into for the future because we're seeing such a dramatic increase in this population. I think Mary Ann had shared at our Board of Ed presentation that statewide they're seeing like a 40% increase in this population coming into district.
Just so you know, we shared this with past presenters, but if there's like any bills, like I know you work with our state delegation, whether you want us to help advocate for or put forward that to help with whether it's ECS funding formula or special
That's a big
education
one.
budgets,
It's a big one.
let us know because we can help there.
Thank you.
For such specialized skill sets, and I imagine those people are fairly difficult to acquire because it's so specialized. Is there a process, or have you considered sharing these people with some of the neighboring districts?
So actually, 2 of the tutors that I currently employ at 29 hours with no benefits hold the certification for this position. I also have a tutor working at our high school who is getting her master's to be certified in this. So it's actually more accessible than you might think. I wouldn't, in terms of sharing with another district, that wouldn't help me right now because I need the support in my district. I'm not sure how, if I shared it, it might be a half-time position. We don't typically share with other districts. If we went out to our regional service center, which is Learn, I don't have a proposal from them in writing, nor do I know if they actually provide this kind of service to districts. It would definitely cost us more than the amount that they should just quote it. I can say that with great confidence based on my tuition bills.
We've actually, and the reason Allison is kind of snickering at this is because we were using an outside consultant, I think it was one of the state's RESCs, for a registered behavior technician. And as we see the needs increase, that person's hours are increasing, and so it gets to a point where it just makes sense to in-house the position because we're paying insane amounts of money for not as many hours as we need. So this, not to keep talking about this point, but I'll just quickly say when I started digging into the data about the ELs, I expected it to be like one building was consistently higher than the other buildings, or, I expected to see some type of consistency, and I was really surprised to see that it really does shift year over year from building to building. Here's another one for Allison. So one of the other increases requested in the budget is for another pre-K teacher. We do currently have a pre-K program at both of our elementary schools, but the number of referrals into the pre-K program are more than we can meet at this point.
So I can give you a couple of additional statistics beyond this slide here. So I'm not sure, and forgive me, I'll give you a little bit of information about how students reach our preschool program. So there is a system within the state of Connecticut called the Birth to 3 system. So this is the system that identifies students prior to the age of 3 if they have a developmental delay of some kind. Most of those students are identified through their pediatrician, through outreach programs, through a parent saying, hey, my 2-year-old's not starting to talk like my other 2-year-old did. So there's all these different ways that students get referred. So the state-funded Birth to 3 system comes in and helps to provide developmental support to those students. Once that student reaches 2 years, 6 months, if there's an inclination that student is going to continue to need services for their developmental delays, and again, we could be talking about anything from a speech delay to a child with Down syndrome, a referral is made to the local school district, and then there is a referral process under which the district determines if that student's going to become eligible for special education services, which start at age 3. So we are responsible for those special education services once they hit 3. So you can see the trend of the students coming into preschool. I'll give you a couple of birth to 3 numbers. So in 2020, the number of students that were just referred to birth to 3, so this is before getting to age 3, needing intervention, was 10,500. In 2024, that number was 12,900, so almost 13,000. And I looked at it, what it is for 2025, 26. It's gonna surpass that for this coming year. Number of students that were in birth to 3 and then ended up receiving special education from their school district. In 2021, it was 3,128. In 2023, it was 5,314. You're going to ask me why? Again, I know Alicia said we don't like to talk about COVID, but we are seeing students that did not get the appropriate developmental exposure that they may have had during those times of not being able to leave their house and be around peers as they normally would. So that's the best I can say. I do a lot of collaboration and discussion with my colleagues in other districts, and I also do a lot of collaboration and discussion with the local community preschool programs, who, by the way, refer students to us on a regular basis. I get calls from all the preschools in this community with concerns about children. Everybody is seeing this very large increase in needs of students.
Now, you said this is related, you want to add preschool teacher at...
I have 2 preschool teachers right now district-wide, so one is at West Vine and one is at Dean's Mill. I gotta beg, borrow, and steal for a space, but I am looking to add a 3rd classroom because my needs are so significant. It's not even, and again, I know you guys want to talk about enrollment numbers, but it's not just the enrollment. I want you to think about, being in a room with a 3-year-old who's having a really difficult day and how they might feel to you as an adult listening to that and thinking about what that's like for, other peers in the classroom. So, again...
Do you know which school at this point, or you don't?
I'm still working on that. And working on some other thoughts about
So
that.
the additional kids would follow where you could find some space?
Yes, and for years I did not have the preschool program housed at either elementary school. During the projects, those building projects, they were housed, one at district office and one at the high school, as a matter of fact, so.
Well, we know the high school is at about half capacity, but...
I'm actively
I'm
looking
sure
at
that
all my
doesn't
options.
necessarily translate into available space.
Preschool is really challenging because there's a lot of limits, like including they have to be on the 1st floor, so they can't be on the 2nd floor anywhere. I have to have facilities that can manage them. This is also, you'll see I'm asking for more speech pathology services, and that's because I have speech paths right now. That I have one that emailed me last week, and she said I've hit max capacity. I'm going to go over I'm not going to get my planning time or lunchtime because I have too many kids that I'm seeing right now. So I'm trying to balance that piece. And also, again, I want to kind of go back to those phone calls I'm getting from those community preschools. Unfortunately, there are students that are in those community preschools, and those community preschools are making really difficult decisions and saying they can't keep the student there. And you need to remember, where are these students going to end up in a year or 2 years in our kindergarten classes? So what I'm trying to do, which is so critical, are those early intervention services. And we still will have kindergartners at both schools that come in and have not had a preschool program. I would say that, Danielle, you asked me about what should we be talking to the state about?
That's it.
Universal preschool, right there. Now, where we're gonna put that, I don't know, but that's a good one.
Or the state takes those monies and makes them in grants available to the towns that need them. I personally like that better, but I get your point, and I gotta say, we've talked, but I have a daughter who's a second grade teacher. The special ed, it's just exploded, and you just think about a kid who comes into a class, and we're talking preschool, but then they get to first kindergarten, first, second grade, and one child is disrupting 15. And it's a terrible situation to put those other kids in. And these are the resources. Of course, that's what the casino money was supposed to be paid for. So there's a lot of things that we were lied to about, and now it's getting dumped on us. And I gotta say, I know that you have an almost impossible job. And if I would take money from anything in all the schools, athletics at the high school, I have 4 kids go, there's a lot of places where that should be the priority. And I know your Board of Ed is doing the best you can, but kids coming into younger grades that need help are disrupting the majority of the kids that are in those classes. So I don't know how you do it, but you gotta shift. I would take some resources and all this and shift it that direction.
So that's why, I know Mr. Rajab or Alicia, I'm sorry, talked about, I'm adding behavior support specialists too, and they've been really integral to our schools and helping our teachers and support these students. And there are also people that are available to have students outside of the classroom. But it is really, thank you, Paul, for mentioning that. It's a big tug of war between what the State Department of Ed is telling districts, which is stop outplacing students and build your own programs and keep them in district. Well, that's great, but to do that, I need the supports to be able to make that happen. I also need the space. Space is critical if I'm going to create specialized programs that can meet students' needs. I can't emphasize how important that is. It sounds like not a big deal, but it's a really big deal. So that's a piece. I mean, as is the state has even tightened their rein on a district's ability to place students at this point. We have to prove that we've completed certain evaluations, and if I haven't completed a certain evaluation, I have to submit a special petition to the state of why I'm seeking an out-of-district placement for the student. So that's putting added pressure on districts to create your own programs. To create your own programs, you need the staff to do it.
Looking ahead, obviously, COVID had a catastrophic effect on academic accomplishment. For those kids who are born disabled, COVID had an effect, but the underlying problem is likely to be lifelong. For those kids who were struck by being out of school for all that time and so on, is it your sense that putting in additional remedial resources is getting them back on track? Or do you think this is going to be a very extended problem?
So I've
There's
been
a catch-22 for you, right?
So I've been in the position for 13 years. And last year and this year are the first 2 years where I was sounding alarms about pre-K. So that's when I really started to see, oh boy, our needs are really increasing. The level of support that students that are coming in, the amount of referrals we're getting. I do monthly screenings here. I have 5 or 6 kids come in to be screened, and 3 years ago I maybe would have had 1 or 2 students from that I may have said, we might want to evaluate this student further to see if they have special needs. Now we're leaving these screening processes. My team's like, we have 5 kids that we need to refer who may need special education. So because this has been kind of a recent surge, I haven't been able to project far enough for you. But what I can say is it is very helpful for these receiving teams to, let me back up. One of the greatest struggles that this district faces in kindergarten is the unknown needs of students that are coming into K. Despite the best efforts of both of our elementary schools of doing their own kindergarten screening process, they're rolling the dice when they're putting many kindergarten students in classes because they don't have preschool data to support whatever need that child might have. We've been seeing this as a consistent need throughout the years where, September 20th rolls around and my phone starts ringing saying, come on over, we've got a student we're really concerned about who I've never heard of before, and they're 5 years old. So I can't, if you ask, in a couple of years I can tell you, but if you look up any evidence or research about early intervention at developmental milestone, meeting the developmental milestones, it's really very important.
If you agree, I'm sorry, just.
So I don't know if I answered your, I can follow a group and I'll let you know in a couple of years.
Seems to me that this is an important question that we'll need to revisit. If COVID has created a new normal for the needs of schools, then there's a possibility that that cohort of kids will require special attention as long as they're in the school system, that they will never recover that lost time. If it's more of a blip where an acute intervention is likely to get them back on track where they would have been absent COVID, then that's a whole different discussion.
And I think there's some buckets some kids that may fit into that bucket. I think there's other students where it's just more, we're seeing, so like what you're describing is the acute level of need that we're seeing based on COVID. But what I'm also seeing is just the sheer numbers of students that need intervention. It might not be intervention that's going to be lifelong, but it's intervention that 5, 6, 7 years ago, I wasn't seeing that many kids need speech intervention, for example, because they didn't know their speech sounds. They weren't developing them at the appropriate age range. So that's just an example. So yeah, so absolutely, there's going to be long-term impact from that, and there's long-term impact from that for families too, right? And those are where the children are for most of the day. But it's also just kind of the sheer numbers of those students. Are there some that I can hopefully meet their needs and exit them on their way to general education? It's always our goal.
Is this happening other towns? I'm assuming that it is.
Every director I speak to,
So
every single one.
It almost seems like this could get to a point where you're going to be overwhelmed.
I think you said that last year.
And that's
That's
a really scary thought.
It is.
It disrupts the whole educational process.
Well, I think it is recognizing that kids are changing, families are changing, the needs of the families and the kids are changing with it. I think one of the examples I tried to give last year was, as much as I know, I think it was Mike Fauerbach who used to sit where you're sitting, and he always wanted my spread. He loves his data and spreadsheets, and I used to apologize to him because I said, it's tricky because I think I gave the hospital example of, 10 patients in ICU can cost you more than 20 patients on the regular floor. And unfortunately, I am seeing more students that are at that ICU level and needing a lot of support. So that is why it's tricky in talking about numbers when we're talking about kids and trends. I mean, just read the news. I mean, the social media, the phones, the screens, COVID, anxiety levels, all of that. It's a challenging time, no doubt.
Sounds like it's going to get worse.
No, we have Melissa.
Thanks, Paul.
And we're keeping her.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, we're really trying to do the best we can to help support. And again, I don't want to downplay wanting to send students out of district. We want to keep students in district, but there is a lot to, if we're going to keep them in our district, we have to provide the supports that they need.
Yeah, I asked this question last year. It didn't go over too well. But, who determines the level of severity?
So that is through a planning and placement team meeting. So that meeting takes place with no less than a school administrator. So it's either the principal or myself. and a special education teacher, a general education teacher, 90% of the time the school psychologist, any other related services that child may have, PT, OT, speech, again, mental health I mentioned, our BCBA, and then the parents.
This is in Stonington. Is it different?
Oh, this is federal. This
This
is
is-
federal
okay.
law of people, so it's called a planning and placement team meeting. They call it, that. They want, the names change in states, but this is where a team that gets together and essentially determines what the special education programming for the student has. But where the administration comes in is when we get to a meeting where we say, we've tried this, we've tried that, because our goal is to keep students in district. It's called least restricted environment, or LRE. You'll see that acronym a lot. When we've reached a point where we've checked all these boxes of everything we've tried, and we've determined we can't meet that student's needs. Again, it's our job to educate the student, help them make process, and do it in a way that's successful for them. And as Paul has pointed out, sometimes making sure that everybody else in the school is learning too. So at those meetings, we have those discussions. Sometimes they're difficult discussions. Sometimes they're easier discussions where everybody's really on the same page and we make those decisions. That an alternative placement is a better fit for that student.
And not everybody always cooperates. And
That
we're not
is
talking
true.
about the children.
That is true.
Thank you.
There's only a few slides left, I promise.
The proposed budget. So now that we've gone through all of the iterations and we've looked at all of the data, the proposed budget makes strategic investments with high student impact in those areas that we've talked about, speech, English language, pre-K. It continues growing the HBI program and the CNA program at the high school. It responds to Board of Education and community requests to reinstate the library media positions. And I guess I kind of skipped that part when I was talking about how we make these decisions. We're also listening to our stakeholders. We're listening to our leadership team, to our Board of Ed, to the community members that come and speak at the Board of Education meetings. There is a new indoor air quality mandate that is coming down the pike that Steve will be managing. I think it's $70,000 per year.
75,000.
75.
And then it gets last our building.
So $75,000 for the high school, and so he's planning to do one building per year to break out that cost a bit. We have had several parents advocating for additional co-op funding. So some of our athletic programs, wrestling is the first one that comes to mind. We only have one wrestler at the high school, and so that student co-opted with Fitch. That particular arrangement didn't happen to cost anything, but some of the others do. One of the ones that's being advocated for is hockey. So it's programming where we team up with another district so that we can offer our students additional athletic opportunities without having to fund the whole program, because the number of students interested in it don't necessarily warrant doing that. And this budget keeps all employees employed.
Before you leave that slide, can you just explain the indoor air? What are you having to do to meet that requirement, Steve?
Currently, the state is requiring, like, within every 5 years, our schools are, our ventilation system is checked, where we actually measure airflow, go through the ventilation, make sure we're providing adequate air, our equipment is maintained in a reasonable shape, and then they'll go through our building management and make sure I'm not being too cheap and not running the air system, that kind of thing, so that our buildings make the required airflow for each of our students in the district, and that includes balancing. They do actually check every single duct every single vent in the schools.
Who's doing that checking?
So there's a few companies out there that are actually doing it, and there's not very many on the market right now as it's a newer mandate.
There'll be more.
Yeah, they will. Right now it's about 40 cents a square foot, just a little bit more. You have a building gone through. And they'll rate a report, they'll measure a lot of air. It's taken, West Vine we're actually doing right now because we've had some ventilation issues there, odors. And that's right around 31,000. So to do West Vine. It's a mandate and we have to have it done. I'm basically doing one building per year instead of doing them all 5 in 1 year, so.
I hope our newer buildings do okay.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Thanks, Steve.
I think we've reviewed all of these except for the math interventionist that West Vine Street School is requesting. So they requested one classroom teacher and one math interventionist, which is also a certified teacher position, to address the tier 2 and 3 math needs at West Vine Street School. And again, these different tiered interventions are preventative measures to try to help kids to be successful and not need to have Allison services.
So can you back up again?
Sure.
I have, one of the things that jumped out at me about putting the 2 FTEs back at the middle school. Is that on the slide?
It is, yes.
That drove the class size down to like 15 or.
Do you want me to go back to that slide?
Sure.
It's pretty far back, but I'm sure I can.
Yeah, I mean, that just strikes me as a very low number compared to, there's 18 kids in the class size is 17 or 18 when you get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade range, and now.
Maybe you could have Mr. Parkinson expand a bit on that, but I can't remember if I read it or heard it in one of your meetings, but I think it had something to do with 2 of the teachers are teaching 2 separate grades, so they have to do double curriculum, and that's made it challenging for them to do 2 sets of curriculum for 2 different grades. So less about the class size, I think, and more about the burden on the individual teachers, but I could have that wrong. So I think we can't have everybody here for all the meetings, so maybe before deliberations, even something in writing from Mr. Parkinson, or if we have other questions for specific principals.
Yeah, this is a little bit long, but I did ask for this from him, and it says, and I can provide this out to you all as well in writing. Overall student enrollment has increased by more than 25 students in the last year, with a reduction of 2 positions. Science and social studies class numbers have reached a critically high level. ELA and math class sizes average between 15 and 16 students, while science and social studies are between 22 and 23. An imbalance in the number of teachers in each content area is leading to a lack of common planning and collaboration between content areas and special educators. Next year's enrollment is predicted to stay the same, even if there are no new enrollments, as grade 5 and grade 8 are similar size. If current trends continue, overall enrollment would increase significantly. Again, I know that's really wordy, so I'll send it out to all of you as well.
And it was part of our meeting, when we talk enrollment, it's just a smaller size, class moving to higher, high school, larger size coming in, so enrollment to that school is.
Yeah, but it sounds like the need isn't really being driven by class size as so much as educational issues. Well, class size, not classroom size, but the size of certain, like math classes.
Right.
Okay.
I think that was the end. I think I was just putting out your questions.
Thanks.
We have the tax burden over the last few years and what it would be to the mean home increase for the current ask by the Board of Education.
Do you know what number did you use the assessor's number for mean home value?
So a Board of Ed member actually created this data for me, and so,
Kevin used the assessment.
Okay, because I looked at that number in last year's budget, and it's lower than what I think, it didn't make sense to me, but, okay.
Thank you.
so any questions you have on this?
I'd like to spend a moment on the health insurance line,
Okay.
because I know a bit more about that than many of the other issues we cover, so, you know, I'd like to focus on that for a moment. The Board of Ed line item is for $5,868,000 and change, and the town is asking for $3 million. So altogether, that's close to $9 million, which represents about 10% of the budget. Stop me if I'm totally off. I've tried to analyze the situation as best I could. You are self-funded for the first $500,000 per individual per year, and then it crosses over into reinsurance. Is that the right number?
So I just want to make sure I understood what you said, because we're self-funded. So once an employee, we have a high deductible plan, and so employees are paying out of pocket for that first amount, 2, 4, 6, you know, depending on what their level is. And then all claims come straight from the Board of Education's insurance account. We do have one employee who has particularly high claims, and so that person has a laser at, I think, $500,000, so I'm not sure if maybe that's where that $500,000 came from.
I don't want to talk about the employee's responsibility because I just want to state publicly that nothing that I'll talk about is to try and cost shift onto employees. So they really shouldn't suffer in terms of coverage, in terms of personal responsibility. And of course, you know, a lot of that is due to agreements with the union, so that really is not part of the discussion. But as you indicated, for those high-cost individuals, once the claim exceeds $500,000, then it rolls over to reinsurance. Have you had an actuary, or does Brown & Brown look at whether that's the right number and whether that $500,000 threshold should be raised or lowered in order to save the town some money? Because just for the sake of discussion, if there's some way to modify that high-level plan design and to cut 10%, that's $1 million to the bottom line of the town and the Board of Education. So we're talking big numbers. Mm-hmm. And I've got a couple of other questions, you know, along the same line.
So Brown & Brown does do an analysis with Anthem each year. And I know that Jim works on that as well. I don't know, do you not add
Not
to
really,
that?
no, I don't. That's Director of Admin Services.
Okay, gotcha. So again, I'm not an insurance expert, and so that's why we have Brown & Brown, that's our insurance broker, who does those analysis for us. And I can certainly bring that to them and ask them.
And Jean, maybe you could reach out to the town HR director, the admin, and Alicia maybe, and
Yeah.
have an offline, like, deeper dive on that. And it's a good question.
Yeah, that's, I think, where we want to go with that is
Yeah, my understanding
to take
is
a
that
deep
the
dive
town piggybacks
offline.
on the Board of Education decision, which is fine, you know, it streamlines the process. But in essence, that puts a bigger burden on the Board of Ed to protect both its own budget and the town's budget. And I don't know Brown & Brown, so I can't speak to whether they're providing good service. I don't know whether they charge you based on the size of the premium, in which case they have an incentive to charge you more. I can tell you for sure that Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, or whoever you have, whatever sweet nothings they whisper in your ear, you pay them a percentage of the total claims. So they have every incentive in the world to charge you more. And all of the medical management stuff that they tell you about may or may not work. So my gut sense is that there are significant opportunities. If you haven't really kicked the tires in a while, and if you trust Brown & Brown to do all the work, then there's a lot of money left on the table.
Okay.
And you don't need to be an insurance expert, you just need to make sure that they are, and that they're treating you fairly.
Right.
I need to ask a favor. I was approached by a member of the Board of Ed and asked that the Board of Finance not fire any teachers. That shows a complete lack of understanding of the process. We don't hire anybody, we don't fire anybody. You present a budget request, and the Board of Finance looks at the gestalt of the town's needs. So, however this plays out, let's be fair with each other in terms of who does what, and that we don't fire anybody. If it's a widespread feeling, it needs to be addressed. You discussed enrollment, and we certainly have an aging town. The birth rate is declining nationally, and we're part of that. But one of the things that struck me, and I need your help in this, is that in every community, families are choosing alternatives to public education, be it a private school, parochial school, magnet school, homeschooling, and so on. So I'd be very interested in what the trend lines are, whether the declining enrollment is due to factors that are out of control, or whether families are making decisions. And just looking at rough numbers, and it may not be accurate to the 13th decimal point, looking at the 2025 budget book, it lists 2,864 individuals ages 5 to 19. The total enrollment in the Board of Ed is 1,652. So if you divide one by the other, it means that, it's the best I could do. If you have better numbers, we'd be very interested in hearing them.
Where did the 2864 come from? Is that in the town budget? Is that?
Yeah,
That's the census.
last year's budget.
Yeah, there's census data.
Okay.
That data could be out of,
That data is out of date.
that data is out of date. That's census data, so it's from 2020. But one of the things in the front matter of the budget is educational level of all the residents.
Yeah, I've looked on it. I just wasn't sure what number he was referencing.
Well, if it's out of date, I apologize, but if you have more current numbers, it would be helpful. But dividing one by the other, it means that 58% of that cohort is in the public system, and the other 42% are getting their education elsewhere. It would be good to know, for your sake, as much as anybody else's, where those numbers are heading. And finally, the per pupil cost, you put down in the breaking out the different schools of what the cost is per school, but just taking a 30,000 foot view, you're asking for $48 million and change. And again, if we divide it by the 1,652, which is your number, we get a price per student of $29,250. So do you know offhand how that compares? You know, that's the entire basket. Middle, high school, special ed, and so on. So it's a very rough number. But do you have any sense of how that compares to other school districts of comparable size?
So our per pupil expenditure is a little bit higher than other districts, but that 29,250, we could have one student who costs 200,000, and so that's certainly skewed, which is why I did it by the building, leaving out those extra costs for the higher cost students.
Well, $200,000 really doesn't move the needle. So, I think it's important to look at some other details in that $29,000.
Going back to the 2020 census, I mean, that clearly sounds like it's out of date. I don't think, do we have data on homeschooled students, or is that something that's even reported to districts? We do. So I have access to data on who's going to the magnet schools and the VOAG and the tech schools, and it sounds like I can get my hands on the homeschool, but it's definitely not, that's a really high number. It's definitely not nearing 50%. So, but I can certainly give that data to everybody.
Well, it was the best I could do. So
Thank you.
your more accurate numbers would help refine the number.
Okay, thank you. And just to contribute to, I think this is sort of the data you were thinking about, just for newer members of the board. So right now, my cheapest private school tuition, I have multiple private schools that I utilize depending on the needs of the student. The cheapest right now is $69,000 a year, and that does not include transportation. And I have other students whose tuition is $105,000 a year. So when you take that group, this is, I think what she was kind of saying, is looking at that 29,000, but how it's divided up, the cost of.
I have a question, just that, can I ask Allison just to build on? I just want to, I'm going a total wrong direction with this, but I just want to ask you not necessarily for this budget, but for future budget, in case I'm not still here. Like, looking at those numbers, hundreds of thousands to put students out of district, which sometimes I'm sure is 100% needed. We could never meet those needs. But like, do you see somewhere you feel like we could meet their needs if you had more capacity? And is it worth running a scenario like, not for this budget, but maybe for the next one, if you have more to work with, like what the projection could be of cost savings? Or do you feel like you're at capacity and you couldn't take on anymore?
Are you asking me for next year?
Yeah. Like just to think about it, like, is like,
The biggest obstacle right now, again, and I feel like it's Groundhog Day, frankly, is space. So we moved from Old Mystic, and I was there for many years in a position where we had no space. We were renovating, we were redoing the 2 elementary schools, and I needed space there. We moved here, and I have an alternative high school program here that didn't exist before that. I have my transition program here, which is great. I take that back. Sorry, we moved to 40 Field Street, sorry.
and then
It was like, right, so I said, oh, this is wonderful. I waited so long to have the space to create my own programs. And then you all know what happened from there, and then we moved here. And then I said, after I moved everything and we moved all the children and all that, and then I said, oh, okay, well, let me start that philosophy again. How great, I have space, and now we have some issues in this building as well. So I'm hitting a little bit of a brick wall with some of that, but I am, so Danielle, to answer your question, if I looked at because the other piece of it is if I bring, and by the way, I'm bringing kids back, which is reflected in this budget you're seeing, the kids that I am planning on bringing back. I also have to look at a cohort that has a similar amount of needs, so I can place them together. So what I would be looking at is more of an elementary, probably is what I'm looking towards next. But the other piece I have to be thoughtful about is, again, a lot of the supervision that goes into managing that type of program. And I know this is unpopular, but I'm going to say it. The other piece of that is an administrator that can be available to oversee a high-needs classroom like that 24/7, all the time. And right now, we don't have somebody in that capacity to do that. So that's tricky too. Could I bring 5 kids back and pay for it? Yeah, we can look
I think that's-
absolutely to do that, yeah.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah,
point,
that's
Danielle,
good.
is to look at the big picture. And maybe if we brought these kids back, it would only cost us $30,000 per year, as opposed to $60,000 per year.
Yeah,
And then if there's this half a dozen kids, that pays for the administrator and we keep them in.
right, exactly.
And
But right now, I'm a little stalled with
I know, we've got a lot
our
of.
second.
You got a lot of work to do.
Our second floor slab.
I just also want to be sure, just since we're in this unique opportunity, like, are you engaged yet with the K-12 building committee to share like your space needs?
So I have not been to their meetings yet, but I am looking forward to being invited.
Who's our liaison? Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be good just to be sure you're plugged in.
Yeah.
And you should, when I ran the K-12 school building committee to build the high school, I told users to, it sounds crazy, but think out of the box and pretend there's a money tree. We know there's not. No, but you can always come back, but you can't add on. And then you can plan, and maybe it'll work, or maybe it won't, or maybe it can be a master plan, maybe you can phase it in. There's a lot of things that can be done, rather than, if you look at the history of our schools, the worst parts of the schools were the little Band-Aids that they put around Stonington High School, the Band-Aid they put around Dean's Mill. Those are the worst parts of the schools.
The wooden roof.
Wooden roof.
Well, since we're getting a little bit off
Yeah,
budget topic, but since you segued into Band-Aids,
yeah.
where are we with the portables?
Yes, that was my next question, sorry.
Okay, you want to ask her?
Yeah, no, you're adding 2 more people in the middle school. Where are they gonna go? There was supposed to be, I'm new to this. I tried to look at some history, but this was approved. I looked at timeline.
The bid waiver was approved on the 2nd of July.
Yeah, 2nd of July. All right, so go.
So I think Steve and I can probably tag team this one, but the attorney for the district had some significant concerns with the contract that was initially provided by Mobile Modular, who we're getting the portables through. And so there's been a lot of back and forth trying to make sure that the district and the town are protected in that purchase.
And where is the contract now back to the vendor?
It's actually, it is back to the vendor, and there is 2 outstanding issues with the contract. One issue is a legality wording on liability, and the other issue is which I've got an email into the building inspector. Basically, it's a modular building built in another state. Who's inspecting the building? What party is going to be responsible? You say the building's made to the code of Stonington in Connecticut. Currently, going back and forth, the factories will use a third-party vendor to do that inspection. It is actually kind of been a pain. And the other consideration was the current middle school, we didn't actually have a code reference drawing that was never created in 1987. So just the exits and the amount of people exiting and the occupancy of building never existed. So we did update that, and that didn't delay the process, but it was a confirming part of the process to make sure there's the availability for students to actually, the amount of students that are in that building to be in that building.
Okay, so do you know when the contract got sent back to?
I think
Our attorneys were, your attorneys were okay with it?
So I sent an email to Bob, our building inspector, I believe on, I want to say Monday. And I think I sent a 3-way communication between me and Tim on the language in Alicia about removing certain language. The lawyers.
Okay, so
we're still working out some fine print on the.
Yeah, it's close. It's really close.
What's the turnaround time once we have that finalized?
So once the contract's signed, they would build a set of documents that then I would take to the building inspector to get approved. Once that's approved, then we go. I need an approval from the building inspector before I can start building. And they'll be stamped by an engineer from their company.
And delivery time, once we.
Once the
light turns green.
Yeah, I mean, the construction, back when we talked about having it constructed, was 10 weeks.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's still feasible, it's not years, you know, but there has been a lot of legality, red tape in this one.
So, but the delay is due to legal issues.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then who's insuring it, because we partially own it,
Oh,
it's coming from
uh,
Georgia.
We had interesting discussions about insurance on who was insuring what when we redid the elementary school.
Right.
All right, thank you.
No, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just pulled up while everybody else was talking, just to go back to the per pupil expense. And I'll send you guys this link. It's called the School and State Finance Project. They do a lot of analysis. They have a really amazing interactive website on education in Connecticut. So I'll share that out with you. But I was able to pull up, we often compare ourselves to Waterford and East Lyme. Part of that is demographic, and part of that is Ledyard, Groton, Norwich, New London. They get a lot more federal funding than Waterford, East Lyme, Stonington do. And so we just typically compare pretty well to those. And so as of, I think this is 2024 data, Stonington's per pupil was 25,500. Waterford's was 24,000, and East Lyme's, I'm not wearing my glasses, was 23,400. So pretty comparable to those two districts. But I will share this link out with everybody as well.
We probably have less students, I would think, too. So our cost per student, it makes sense that it'd be a little higher.
Correct. And of course, then as the number of students goes down and it doesn't cost any less to run the buildings or anything, then that per pupil also is going to rise. Thank you for the question.
I'm good. Questions on the presentation? Anybody else?
So, just so for the record, the numbers in that 25, 26 adopted budget for population come from the 2013 to 2017 American Community Survey numbers. So that's not even in this decade. My question refers to the way that you structure these budget numbers when you bring them to the Board of Ed. You give them sort of the swim lanes of the stay the same, and then, look, here's some things that we want to do in addition to that number, and then you sort of end up somewhere in the middle with that superintendent's number. So that stay the same number, that 5.2% number, that doesn't include any of the things we've seen on the slides in addition to what we're already doing, right? None of the FTEs, none of those programming, none of the things for language, none of that happens if we fund you at 5.2%. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wait, can you say that?
I'm not convinced that that's an accurate statement, because there's some overlap that I want to talk about at some point.
Sorry, could you say that again? No, I didn't follow it.
Yes. So when we're talking about the Board of Ed budget number, and they have the maintained services number in their budget number, that 5.2%.
Yep.
I'm just trying to understand what that number includes or doesn't include when we're going through the presentation and looking at changes that we're making to the system.
So that first number, the 5.28, which is the maintain current services, that does, I'm trying to pull up the budget so I can see exactly, that does include the pre-K teacher. Give me just a minute, let me get the budget.
And while you're gonna, it's because that earlier slide you showed us where you had certain savings that came in, you then were able to add some things into the maintain based on the savings?
Well, because maintain is also, this is what it costs to continue doing what we're already doing. we have to provide those pre-K services. We don't have a choice. And so that, in my mind, is a cost to maintain current services. It's not an improvement request.
Great question.
Yeah. The English language, I did include that as an improvement request. We can continue to do it as we are, but you'll also see that our tutor budget is completely blown, and that's why. So, you know, where we have a choice whether or not to add that certified staff member, we're going to pay something regardless, so it's just a matter of the quality of services we're getting for that money. And so that's another reason that I do the dashboards, is so that to try to be really transparent in what's included in what section and what costs are added or subtracted between the different iterations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question, but I gotta find it first.
All right,
I'm on the, way down in the administrative budget, and it's between your maintained services, your, it's the health, the cost of health, the administrative health insurance. The superintendent's budget reduced that number by $390-some thousand from your maintained current services budget. Can you explain what that's about?
The superintendent's budget or the Board of Education budget?
Well, it's in the Board of Education
Yeah.
the Board of,
Okay.
What page is it?
oh, it's the BOE budget, I'm sorry. Well, if I go off of the page number that Adobe's giving me, it's page 46.
So Brown & Brown looks at that's our insurance broker again, looks at our trends through the year, and they give us a projection. I think it's in December, and then they give another projection a couple weeks ago, I think I got it, and then they'll give another one in June as they kind of refine what the number will be. I did decrease that number based on, so there are rebates that we receive from Anthem. When Anthem did a change in their system several years ago, it was before I was here, it made it so that they were no longer accurately tracking the split in that rebate because the Board of Ed and the town are on the same insurance plan, albeit, you know, it's separated by our individual employees, but so there was a split in the rebate, and they were no longer tracking that appropriately. And so when they finally figured out those numbers and said, okay, this is what the town owes the Board of Education, I spoke to Jim, and that amount had never been transferred over to the Board of Education's account. And Jim was going to do that, and so I reduced it by that amount because that wasn't funding that I was aware that we had until I had done some digging.
Okay, so my reaction to that is just, it seems to me that if that's the new number, that would also be the number in your just maintained current. I don't understand why it wouldn't be the same number across the board, but it's more of an updated number than a,
So the maintain current services, that's what Brown & Brown told us that we should be projecting. And so, again, as we went through the iterations and further conversations, those those figures can sometimes get adjusted as we go along, so
Right,
as,
but what I'm suggesting is that that adjustment actually should show up in your bottom line for maintain current services, because if the actual number, or the current number is whatever it is, that should be, the current number should be reflected across the board, not some older number that was there when you know, that's a holdover from before.
right, but it's also a one-time decrease to the budget. I mean, that's not going to happen every single year. And also, once the Board of Ed has approved the budget, I don't have a tendency to go back and change things. I kind of just let the chips lay where they may. Once the Board of Ed, I'm not comfortable going in and
Yeah, no,
adjusting.
that, I understand that explanation.
Right, it will be, as Farouk is saying, it'll be an important reference point next year when that number is no longer.
Right, because that actually affects what the real cost of.
Yeah, the 390 is a one-time credit, right, that we're gonna take because it's an older money owed, right?
Right.
So maintain services, imaginary, nothing changes in the insurance world, will be the number next year, not negative 390. The 390 is one-time credit.
But that number, if I understand correctly, is added to your medical reserves.
Correct.
Those are real dollars. So how much do you have in that reserve account?
I can't tell you off the top of my head right this minute, but
Probably about 2.5 million, maybe?
yeah, I think that's about right. We just added money to it a couple of weeks ago because this is the time of year where deductibles are met, and so all of the expenses are being pulled from that account, whereas it's a little bit slower. The first half of the year now is, from now until August is when that account really gets hit.
Well, I think they're talking about in Fund 6, not your general fund, your operating fund, but in Fund 601, the health insurance fund, there's fund balance in there. We've got like $5 million fund balance, and like 2.9 of it is for the town, and the balance of being for the Board
In
of
the
Ed.
town account, you mean?
Yeah, not your budget. This is in a different fund, the health insurance fund itself. There's money in there.
Not allocated to the Board of Ed though, correct?
Yes, allocated to the Board of Ed. We'll have to sit together and go through it.
Okay, I'm not sure about that. So the Board of Ed has a separate health insurance bank account. So I guess I'll talk to Jim because I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Well, if you have that number handy, how much do you have in that health insurance account that's the reserve?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I will have to get back to you on that.
Okay, so it's 10 o'clock, folks. So I don't see us going through this entire budget line by line. But if people have any more specific questions, I would say now is the time to ask them. David, you all right?
Yeah.
Chris? All set? Mike? Jean?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you very much for all the time and attention that you spend and going over all the details and your good faith effort to serve the town and serve the students and serve your employees. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything further, but I'm also very, very pleasantly, I don't want to say surprised, I guess, because I've never sat through this before, but I think it's very complete, and I think Jean has to find you some money in health insurance. I think that's what it has to do.
Please do. I might invite, Jean, I might have to invite you to my Brown and Brown call next time.
I'm sorry?
You might have to be a Mythbuster with me at my next Brown and Brown call and help keep me in
However
line.
I can help.
He has a significant experience.
But again, what I would ask of you is that I don't want to get into any discussions that would adversely impact your employees or town employees.
Absolutely.
It's just a question of how to have a maximum impact on the design of the plan and what you're charged.
I just wanted to echo thank you. I think we drill down so hard on the numbers, and I think Jean alluded to this. I mean, like, as you know, it is hard. It's hard to figure out town side, school side, where cuts can come from to make it tenable, but I think this presentation was really helpful, and it's almost like maybe outside of budget season, it'd be nice to have you guys come back to talk about some of the major successes. So I think you touched on them, but they were at such a high level, like the whole school pathway program, the things like the innovation that you guys have done, what Allison has done is like nothing short of amazing over the past few years. So just a really big thank you.
Okay, I want to just also thank you guys. I know it's a big job. We have a big job in front of us, and we'll see what happens. There's a, next item on our agenda is a bid waiver request for $55,742.37 for security cameras.
I move we approve that bid waiver.
Any discussion? Do we need any, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Nobody's opposed. Who made the, Chris made the motion?
Very quick.
And who seconded? Jean seconded. No correspondence. Oh, I jumped to, we have our catch-up meeting on Thursday with Public Works. When? I'm sorry. Now I'm going to confuse the videographer again. We have our next meeting on Wednesday night to deal with the Public Works and solid waste.
Is that in lieu of our regular meeting?
Yes, it's a special meeting because it's here.
Right.
So
There's
we
no
can only
way-
discuss what's on the agenda, and we can't add anything to it.
No one go to the police department, we won't be there.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Gene made the motion, Paul seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Where's my mouth?
Thank you.